I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it, man.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
You just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing.
Lobito!
Got nothing.
I want to get out. I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
Welcome everybody to another BD Boxing podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. As your good friend Mr. BDA, and alongside with me as always my co-host, the one, the only King, Bucho. King, are you there? Yes indeed, I think he is there, but I mean, he skips out during the intro.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure.
No, it's my fucking phone.
Well, listen, we've got a sensational show here. Everybody's talking about the latest news. Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter will be fighting. Although, of course, there's people out there that will not believe it until they see it, until both guys are in the ring. And I gotta tell you, I can't blame them based on some of the shenanigans we've had these past couple of weeks with boxing. Nevertheless, we're glad to be back here doing another show. And we're gonna get down to the Crawford-Porter fight, everything that it implies, all the implications, what could happen down the line, what's at stake, and many more things. So stay tuned for that, guys. It's gonna be a bumpy one. Strap in. Before we get down to the fun, though, let's get the business out of the way, fellas. You know the drill. Don't forget to hit the like button and to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Do not forget also to spread the BDA gospel. There's still a lot of uninitiated out there. I know it's hard to believe, but there's still people out there that don't know about this organization. So make sure that if you know any hardcore boxing fans, that they show up here. I want to give a shout out to 22B, Mini Taps, Shawn O'Connell, Wayne Hennessy, GB Guthrie in the house. Shout out to GB Guthrie. Official Scorecard Boxing. Shout out to official Shawn O'Connell, Carlos Mendoza. Who else we've got here? Oscar Valdez, King of Brazil. Al Sharpton's Boxing, Fat Cheeseburger Nation, Iceman, Chris Waddle, Rapax Trucking Company, and many more people. Oh, LT Boxing y Desmadre in the house as well. Shout out to LT. And many more people to come, I'm sure. Don't forget, we got the BD membership program as well. Yeah, you can always join if you're so inclined. It really helps us out. You get special merit badges, special emojis, and you get BDA narrated film analysis from yours truly. I'm going to be dropping one about the so-called boogeyman, talking about Demetrius Andrade, so stay tuned for that one. In any event, let's get right down to it, like I said. All right, by the way, we're going to be taking phone calls in about half an hour, 45 minutes. We do need to establish a little bit here about the upcoming fight between Crawford and Shawn Porter. Again, the fight is taking place on, hold on a second, let me put it up on the screen here for you. November the 20th at the Michelob Ultra Arena. So that's where, I mean, we're going to get into that too about whether they should have held it somewhere else, but hey, it is what it is. Bucho, let me just start off saying that when it comes to this fight, maybe I'm in the minority. I'm not all that pumped up for it. I'll tell you straight up, I think Crawford is going to piece Porter up. That's what I think. What do you think?
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Man, I think it's a good fight. I mean, some people were saying that Terence Crawford was avoiding Shawn Porter listen, you know me. I don't follow all that bullshit that happens backstage in negotiations and all that. So I don't know what really happened. All I can tell you is that the fight is happening, and I agree with you, man. I don't think this. I think Crawford's gonna stop Shawn Porter. The first time we're gonna see that.
Yeah, and we're gonna show people a couple of clips later on. It's not gonna be a film analysis, but it's just gonna be a quick run through of why we think Crawford's gonna stop him. I mean, it's still an interesting fight, though, Bucho, because I mean, I'm not saying that I'm super hyped for it, but it's
better than Kell Brook.
Oh yeah.
Better than Amir Khan. You know what I mean? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, this is a mega fight compared to those, right? I mean, Khan, Kavaluskas, Kell Brook, who looked like an Ethiopian refugee. I mean, it was bad, man. He was a bad.
But by the way, after Shawn Porter loses, which I think he will, it's gonna be the end of that welterweight 2015 era. That class of 2015, I call it. You know, the Danny Garcias, Shawn Porter. Who else was there? I mean, there were the lower levels like Robert Guerrero.
Yeah, Keith Thurman was. Oh well, yeah.
Keith Thurman, sorry, yeah, I was looking for that name. Keith Thurman, yeah. Those guys are fucking gone after that. After Shawn Porter goes away, it's gonna be the new class that comes in. The Virgil Ortiz, the other guy. What's the guy? The American
Ennis.
guy.
Jaron Ennis.
Huh? Ennis. You know, so this, I think there's a Puerto Rican. Isn't there a Puerto Rican?
Yeah, I've heard. I forget the name, but there's a Puerto Rican. There's Alexander Bisputin, although he's not that young, I don't think. And
he's fresh. I mean, he's new.
There's Stanis, aka Stanionis, or whatever his name is, the Kazakh, bald Kazakh, he's a juggernaut in there, but I don't know how far he can go. But the point we're trying to establish here is that there's new welterweights on the come up. I mean, Spence is what, 31? Crawford's 35. Thurman's about 32, I believe. But I mean, he probably has the body of a 90-year-old now with all his injuries. So yeah, man, it's not. It's a new class, and like you said, yeah, if Porter, because I mean, think about it, if Porter loses now, he will have lost to the best of the best: Keith Thurman, Terence Crawford, and of course Kell Brook before that, who for a while looked like he was gonna be on his route to being the king of the welterweight division, and then he decided to go for the glory, straight to Triple G, and he was never the same again. But this fight, like you said, compared to the Khan fight, compared to the Kavaluskas, compared to the the Benavides fight, this is a mega fight for Terence Crawford. It's probably going to be pay-per-view. They don't say here in the boxing scene article, but I'm assuming it's going to be pay-per-view because it's a top rank PBC. They're working together. Maybe they'll try to split the cost. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't say. It's going to be jointly presented by ESPN Plus and Fox Sports. Okay, so there you go. That answers my question. It says so right here. So it's not going to be pay-per-view, Bucho. As well, it shouldn't, because it's a good fight, but let's face the facts. It's not exactly pay-per-view material, right?
No, it's not. It's a big fight, but this is the thing. Just because it's a big fight doesn't mean it has to be a pay-per-view.
Exactly. Now, give me 5 seconds here. Keep on going.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not a pay-per-view fight. I'm pretty sure you guys agree. Chris K, thank you for your contribution. He says, bigger question is, will Bud fight Porter or any live body? Also, rest in peace, Holyfield's dignity and Tito Ortiz's brain cells. Yeah, I didn't even know Tito Ortiz fought. I saw like a clip, like him getting destroyed, but we knew Tito Ortiz he can't box for shit. I remember there was a video of him at the Walker gym, and he was training with Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach was actually just teaching him the basics. He couldn't even get that shit right. So I'm not surprised he lost to Silva. Holyfield, I mean, that's pretty fucking sad. I don't even know how he got a license. I saw a video of Holyfield hitting the mitts, the pads before the fight, obviously, and he looked like shit. He was super slow, and I can't even believe what's his name? Vitor Belfort was like kind of celebrating that fucking win.
Yeah, he was.
He was pretty fucking. He was pathetic. It was pathetic.
I want to make a small correction. The fight is pay-per-view. People are saying that, and yes, indeed, if you read this article carefully, it says, can you believe it? It says they will meet for a third time. No, wait, what? The bout offers will one consider a pair from Top Rank. I know they're talking about the Wilder Fury pay-per-view. So which one? So I don't know. It doesn't say here whether it's going to be pay-per-view or not.
Not says pay-per-view BDA. Somebody post a link in on Discord so we can verify this.
It says ESPN Plus. Despite the union between ESPN Plus and Fox Sports.
Somebody said ESPN Plus pay-per-view. What the fuck?
Jeez, Luis. I mean, what a mess. What an absolute mess. And by the way, Bucho, let me send a couple of invites so we're going to switch over to another room. All right?
Okay.
All right, sending the invite here. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see whether it's going to be pay-per-view or not. I don't think it should, but it is what it is. We got Jimmy in the house. Jimmy!
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing, man? Thank you for being on. Jimmy, I wanted to ask you, we're talking about the Crawford versus Porter fight, which has just been announced. Apparently, Top Rank and the PBC are going to be working together. Have you heard anything about whether it's going to be pay-per-view or not? The article I'm reading
yes,
is kind
it
of
is going to be a pay-per-view.
Ah, well, first of all,
it will absolutely will be. And what's kind of pissing me off is, from what I hear, it's Top Rank's the lead promoter on this too.
Well, first of all, let's
that
get
was
started.
the only way they were going to get it to go.
Jimmy, let's get into that because people have been talking about
Hold
the
on
Wilder
one
Fury.
second, dude. This is kind of messed up because you called me, but I was on something else, and it's still on there. Like I have no control of. I can't, mute my phone or nothing. This is weird. Should I just call right back?
Yeah, just jump off and jump back on.
All right. So, did you send me a link?
I think it should be in your private messages. I'll
Okay,
send it to
awesome,
you anyway.
brother. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Now, Butch sending me something too at the same time, and every time I switch screens here, I gotta. The fuck? Where's Bucho? All right, you're back, Jimmy. Jimmy, you still there? Jimmy? Jimmy, can you hear me? Oh, I see Jimmy there, but for some reason it's not a... I'm going to remove these people from the group. Sorry about that, fellas. Sometimes we do get mix-ups here. And, well, apparently, like Jimmy said, he's confirming what most of you guys in the chat room are saying, that this fight will be pay-per-view. Kylie Russell says, according to Compinger, it's ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Oh, my God. Shawn O'Connell says, BBC over here. Nalgas Flacas, great name, says, you got to subscribe and still pay for a fight. Oh, wait a minute. Is it like the UFC model where you had to have ESPN Plus just to be able to order the pay-per-view? That is an absolutely stupid business model, if you ask me. All right. We got Bucho back. Bucho, yeah, apparently it's pay-per-view, man. That's what Jimmy was saying.
Jesus Christ, yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a big fight, but it's not a super big fight.
It is absolutely not a big fight.
I don't know what to say. I'm disappointed.
It's a good fight, but it's not a big... Like for me, when you say big fight, we're talking big names. And that's what I was trying to get at with Jimmy here, because we're talking about this pay-per-view fight. The Wilder Fury rubber match seems to be having no traction. Apparently, they're doing horrible numbers too at the gate. And Joshua Usyk, which I'm assuming is going to have a lively crowd, nevertheless, there's no hype for that one either. By the way, are you inviting people in?
Yeah.
No, that's I already invited them, Bucho. Don't you gotta?
Oh, okay.
Anyway, yeah. Listen, going back to the Crawford-Porter fight, the reason why I think Crawford's gonna stop Porter is because Porter, his whole game is to jump in. That's what he has to do to score his shots and to really get the judges on his side. He could do it against Keith Thurman. He could do it against Spence, who's a long-rangey guy. And even though Spence hits hard, his power compared to that of Crawford is more like a thudding type power, whereas Crawford's power is explosive. And he really does relish when the guys jump on him. He can just pick him off with his big shots and combinations. And again, the speed factor is a whole different thing. And on top of that, once people get close to him, he just clinches them. and he's got like a vice grip on this guy. So it's not gonna be the same thing as a Porter fight. I mean, as a Spence fight, I don't think. So that's why I'm not too hyped up for it. And now that I hear that it's pay-per-view, even less. Absolutely, even less. It's not a good look, man. That's what I'm trying to get at here. I wanted to read a couple of comments here from people. LMX says, "How you guys score Porter versus Ugas? It was a very, very close fight. I don't remember scoring it, but I remember being okay with Porter winning." Chris Waddle says, "Showtime, Shawn Porter. The casuals have zero interest." That's the thing. This ain't that type of fight that's gonna attract casuals. And not that I care too much whether it attracts casuals or not, but it's not. I don't think it's gonna be an action-packed fight either. I don't see it being that type of fight. Gunnar Season says Porter getting stopped. I think so. Maybe not stopped, but I do think he's not gonna look good. I mean, Butcher, you remember Kell Brook is the last guy that was able to beat Shawn Porter clean without too much trouble. I mean, he did his share of clinching too. And I think that's what Crawford's gonna do. I think Crawford has the best of both worlds. He's got a little bit of Shawn Porter in him and a little bit of Kell Brook. Would you agree with that? In the sense that he's okay with clinching and running out the clock sometimes, stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, there's completely different styles, obviously. But yeah, exactly. That's why I think Crawford's gonna stop Shawn Porter because he's a better version than Kell Brook. Yeah, I mean, he's good at controlling distance when he wants to. I mean, we saw him run against Paul Stoll, but that's another fucking story. In this fight, he's gonna be able to maintain distance and make Shawn Porter pay when he's coming in. His style is different than Spence's. Spence likes to absorb, like, shock. I mean, when a guy's going forward and then he needs to bang on the inside. Crawford can actually, keep distance and actually land significant punches, like counter punches. So, yeah, you're right. He's like a better version of Kell Brook. Hold on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm confused here by some people in the chat, though. Like, some people actually don't like us saying that Shawn Porter is shot.
Whoa. Who said he's shot? What?
Yeah, somebody said that we like Shawn Porter is shot, but I didn't say Shawn Porter is shot. I think the same Shawn Porter that's always been there. Spence is more like George Foreman, says GB Guthrie. Yeah, I kind of agree with that comment.
I mean, most people have in this chat room, most people seem to be agreeing with us that Crawford's going to win this one. Now, I remember before the Porter fight, a lot of people were saying that. I mean, before the Spence-Porter fight, a lot of people were saying, Spence is going to kill him, man down, blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards, a lot of those people didn't show up as usual when they're, well, that's what we were telling you. This time, though, I'm telling you, it might be rough in certain spots for Crawford, but I think he's going to have an easier time than Spence did and than Thurman did. We got Chief here. Chief, what do you think about that?
I agree. I think some of it's due to age and wear and tear, but I think also it's because these two know each other. And the better fighter, more well-rounded fighter, put it that way. The better fighter is whoever's going to win that night. The more well-rounded fighter is Crawford. Porter is a one-trick pony. He reminds me of a welterweight version of Troy Dorsey, Jesus Chavez, what's the other one? Jesse James Leha. They throw these big shots that look powerful, but nobody goes anywhere. They can wear B fighters down, possibly get a right round stoppage, but for the most part, they don't stop anybody.
Exactly.
And you're going to have to stop Crawford to win because he's like the modern day Terry Norris and the modern day Marvin Hagler. Maybe not as accomplished as them, but he's got that same chip on his shoulder. That all these other guys have been getting all these multi-million-dollar fights that everyone's putting on pound for pound and ringing accolades, but even though may have been higher on the pound for pound list, nobody's showing me the same respect. And absolutely. I think he's going to want this fight.
You're absolutely right, man. I mean, let's take a look at it just to set the stage a little bit for who these guys are. Crawford is...
Also, like... Oh, sorry, guy.
That's all right, Jimmy. Crawford is 37-0 with 28 knockouts. He's already 33 years old. Okay, I thought he was 35. Okay, he's not that old, but he's certainly past his peak right now. Or he's about to enter the decline of his peak. But nevertheless, he's a big puncher. He's got speed, power, the whole shebang. Plus, he's got a lot of experience, although he's never fought the best welterweights. The same cannot be said for Shawn Porter. He has faced the cream of the crop. He's 31 wins, 3 losses, 17 knockouts. Not a bad knockout ratio, but he's not going to be icing people. He's 5 feet 7 inches tall, and he's about 30. How old is this fucking? BoxRec doesn't show you the age anymore. For a lot
pretty
of these guys.
sure, no, they don't. But I'm pretty sure he's 32.
Right?
Yeah,
so
32. I'm pretty sure too. Yeah.
Okay,
I think
so
him and Spencer and the Charlos are all the same age, or right around 32.
Right, they're they're about the same age. Now check this out. BoxRec has Crawford at 5 feet 8 inches tall and Porter at 5'7". I don't believe Shawn Porter is 5'7".
Nope.
So
What's the reach
the reach is 69.5 inches,
to what?
74 inches for Crawford. He's got orangutan
Bingo.
arms. I said it before.
Yeah.
There you go. And listen, that's a huge thing. 5 inches. That's a big deal right there. That's what it's going to be. His length. I think I personally think it's going to be the first time he stopped.
Go ahead, Jimmy. I'm sorry, I was interrupting you.
Oh no, I was going to say I think it's I'm leaning right now that he's going to stop Porter. He's going to be the first one to stop him.
I'm with you on that. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. I can see it happening. Those long arms can be from a well-educated fighter can be the difference on the inside and the outside. Now he's not Mayweather, he's not Roy Jones, but what could both of those guys do? They could fold those arms up like accordions and just block everything and still launch uppercuts on the inside, and he's good at that too. And that Porter squares up in the middle when he comes at you on the inside. That's right open for uppercuts. Bud's smart enough to see these openings, and again, they know each other.
Yeah.
So these weaknesses that Bud's seen over the years when they used to spar and play around, they're still going to be there. He may have fixed some of them, but he hasn't fixed all of them. Porter's not a proficient guy. He's an aggressive, strong, tough guy. But when it comes time to putting great combinations together and keeping himself at an angle and not getting hit clean and picking off punches with his arms and his gloves, that's not Shawn Porter, never has been.
Right. Now, but it's interesting because Crawford has never fought one of the cream of the crop welterweights. I mean, Horn was coming off that so-called win over Pacquiao, but then subsequently it's been proven that he was never that good. It was just a compilation of things, of factors that made him be able to get the decision over Pacquiao. It was a size advantage, home crowd advantage, the whole shebang. Afterwards, he's never done anything. He lost to the male stripper in Sarafa twice. He lost to Costazu's son. He lost to Crawford. And a lot of those by stoppages, a lot of those defeats. So it's kind of hard to now looking at it and saying that was a great win for Crawford. He's got the Khan win, which again, Khan was completely past his peak. And then you got what? Kavaluskas, Benavides.
Two good fighters.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. And there's asterisks. Like Kell Brook, for example. He'd already been beaten up, and he looked like an Ethiopian refugee.
Let me put something in perspective on the other side of this. Okay, so referring back to the Horn fight. This is a natural lightweight that moved up and did what? Beat down a man that Pacquiao couldn't have. Pacquiao's past his primes, past his peak. I'm a huge Pacquiao fan. I'm not dismissing Pacquiao at all. Pacquiao should have won that fight. But he fought life and death with Jeff Horn, who moved up to 154 and 160 and is a naturally bigger man. And Crawford went in there, handled him quickly and easily, and made it look like it was no problem. A much bigger man. And Pacquiao couldn't do that.
I agree. But, yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was going to say, too, the Kavaluskas, not enough people give credit for that win. I think we've seen against Timo. I mean, when the kid just fought
Ortiz.
The Mexican kid there, Ortiz. Listen, that kid can crack, and he's well-schooled. All right? Well-schooled. Put it this way. How many did you see anybody from, the PBC side ever calling out Kavaluskas? You never heard welterweights calling it because he was, whether you think you could beat him, you're going to have to pack a lunch. That kid's going to fucking put it on you, too. So... No, listen, I just give unless I miss, and I usually, this one thing is pretty good. I can usually tell someone's a dog, and that kid's a fighter. Listen, Crawford's a tough, nasty kid. All right, he's the type of kid. I'm telling you right now. If you're out at the cookout, some kid runs his mouth, he's the first one to slap you. I'm telling you, he's just the way he was raised. Both sides of the family are fighters. You know, and in trouble with the law, fighting. They just have tempers. This kid can fight. They honed his teenage angst. I mean, the kid has said numerous times, if I didn't find boxing, I was going to prison. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So this kid, and I'm just saying, he's one of those guys, so you take that with the natural skill, right? He's a naturally skilled athlete. And, you know, that combination, like the Charlos to me are the opposite. Just excellent athletes, fast twitch fibers, but they don't really want to get in there and bang. I think Crawford will take shots to give shots because he wants to put somebody away. And I think this is a big jump for, I think it's going to show. And I think, honestly, put it this way, I'll also make another prediction. If he does stop Porter, there won't be a snowball chance in hell that Crawford fucking Spence fight ever takes place. That's just my piece on that.
Well, that's the thing.
Jimmy, I agree with you. Just quickly, I agree with Jimmy what he's saying, because I've seen Crawford. I mean, he likes to bang, and he likes, like, I think if he knows that he can take his opponent's shot, he will take them. But in that post-Stoll fight, his first pay-per-view fight that he had, that guy looked like shit. So are we gonna see this again, or you know, like, are we forgetting about that post-Stoll? What happened in that fight?
Oh, the opponent had a lot to do with it. I mean, Postal's not an easy guy. He was moving up to fight a 5'10" junior welterweight. And he felt the guy out, and he went to box. We weren't pleased with the lack of action style he used. I'm not going to argue with any of that. But he clearly won that fight. As dog as it was, and anybody else Postal's been in against, it could have gone either way.
Was that a 140? Or
Yeah,
147?
Yeah, it was 140. It was a 140.
140, yeah.
I think it was his first fight at 140, if I'm correct. It was his first title at 140, if I'm correct. So, as bad as the performance, as much as forgettable as it is, consider the opponent, consider the performance, and consider what that opponent's done to everybody else since he's fought him. None of his fights have been easy with anyone, and except Crawford's was the easiest defeat he had.
I mean, it's easy in the sense. First of all, I don't want to get stuck on Postal. We'll get back to it at some point, but I want to go back to what I said about Kavaliauskas, because to me, it's not necessarily the fact that those guys are good. Khan, Crawford, Benavidez, they're good fighters, but we're talking about how people are saying Crawford's the cream of the crop guy, but he's never actually faced any cream of the crop welterweights. And my pet peeve here with him is, it's not, like I said, it's not that he fought Kavaliauskas and Benavidez, it's that he didn't look good against them. In fact, for as long as the Kell Brook fight went on, I had Kell Brook winning. He was out jabbing Crawford. So when people say, well, he's the best of the best pound for pound, he's lost way too many rounds against unheralded opposition. Not unheralded opposition, but B-listers, essentially. For me to say, oh yeah, he's the best of the best. Now, this Porter fight is going to change people's opinions. And it's not because Crawford's that good. It's just, I think he just stylistically, he has the intangibles, if you will, to make Porter look bad. That's what's going to happen. That's my prediction.
He has tangibles to make anybody look bad, I think. Or most people look bad. Or give it a tough fight. He is talented. I just get the feeling that sometimes he's not motivated to fight some of these fights. Maybe this fight's going to be the one where, you know what I mean? Like, because so many people have talked about, well, why is he fighting at least Shawn Porter? Why is he fighting at least Shawn Porter? Now he's fighting Shawn Porter, so yeah, hopefully we see a different Crawford.
Well, I got two comments, one on the Kavaliauskas and then one on the quality of competition, which we've addressed numerous times on the show. The Kavaliauskas fight, he fought the entire fight left-handed, by choice. Don't know why. I'm not in his head, not in his corner, don't know his people. But he fought the entire fight left-handed against a two-time Olympian who was a solid pro. Knockdown that everyone keeps telling me was missed. He got hit with the right hand. Kavaliauskas jumped on him right away, much like Mayweather did Angel Man Freddy in their fight. Wasn't hurt, but he jumped all over him with a lot of clubbing forearms because none of the punches landed to the head. He threw something to the body that kind of hooked under and he pushed him down. That's an overrated knockdown that people think that he got caught clean with the right hand. Don't get me wrong. And I bet you if you asked him, he'd say, yeah, it probably buzzed me. But the damage it did was been highly overrated by everyone on the results. It wasn't real. It wasn't a knockdown. It shouldn't have been called a knockdown, and I don't think that one punch was close enough to even say that would have ended up in a knockdown. Referring back over to we've addressed many times, Jimmy and I both did, on why he didn't fight the cream of the crop. This fight's been offered to Porter before. Porter said, I'm not going to call him out. They said after he won the WBC, named the top 3 fighters he won. Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence. Bud was not in his sentence at all. When they asked, what about that? He said, I'm not going to call him out. And then I'm paraphrasing, if we have that fight, it's because we want it, meaning both of us. At that moment in time, he didn't want it because he didn't call him out. Then he didn't call him out until he lost to every top welterweight there was, who's not Danny Garcia. And Jamie and I both think Danny Garcia is not a top welterweight. So he's lost to every top one he fought. And then all of a sudden he starts calling out Bud. Well, he's calling out Bud because he needs him, not because he wants him.
Well, I
Danny
disagree,
Garcia was offered between $3 and $4 million. I'm sorry, BD, let me finish this real quick. Was offered between $3 and $4 million, which is more than he made in 2 to 3 fights in a row, and never answered the offer. So this isn't all Bud's fault.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I'm the first one to admit I don't know jack squat about what's going on behind the scenes because you get so much information, it's kind of hard to know. But I take your word for it because I do trust you. So it's true. I mean, and I know for a fact that whole thing, that what you said about that one thing, I am sure of, where they offered Porter money, he said no. He wanted more or something. Like he wasn't satisfied. So yeah, it does goes to show you that it's not all just one way. With that being said, let's stick then to what we do know, which is the Styles matchup and the opposition. And Shawn Porter, first of all, I disagree. I think that Danny Garcia is a very good win because, and I'll just point out to the fact that Adrian Granados, you saw what he did to Conor Benn. Made him look bad, right? He made Adrian Broner look bad. He made Shawn Porter look bad as well. And he put the stop on the whole Amir Imam hype train a couple of years ago. So he's a very tough dude to look good against. Danny Garcia went in there and stopped it. Now, of course, again, styles make fights. But Danny Garcia's power has been underrated, as well as his skills. Now, is he the best welterweight in the world? No. But just look at his fight against Spence and against Thurman. Nobody has an easy time with him. And Shawn Porter didn't have an easy time either, but he beat him. So to me, that at least signifies he's right there on the same level as Thurman and Porter.
It's a fair statement. My comment was that I didn't consider him a great welterweight, not that he couldn't punch or couldn't fight.
Right. Well, I mean, I do. Oh, yeah. Well, great welterweight. I mean, that depends on what you mean by great. Are you saying all-time great? No, but great for this era.
No, but of this era, he's lost to everybody. Period that he fought that meant anything.
Right.
Lost to Thurman, lost to Spence, lost to Porter. Never fought Bud. Never won another title. He beat an old Paulie Malignaggi and beat an old Guerrero. He beat 2 guys that should have been in the geriatric ward. He hasn't done anything else. I'm not saying that he couldn't have beaten these guys if he fought him earlier. Or his best work is at 140, just like most of Bud's best work has been below 147. I acknowledge that.
That's
I
why
don't consider him top welterweight.
That's why it's going to be interesting to see if Crawford is on that Porter-Thurman level. Because so far, people have been itching for him to fight one of those guys, or at least this guy, Shawn Porter. So that's one interesting tidbit in there for this fight. Again, I think Crawford beats him and beats him up bad, but I don't know for sure. I don't got a crystal ball. I've been proven wrong before. So that's why I'm a little hyped up for this one. I got to admit. Recognize the Matrix jumping in. Recognize, are you there?
What's going on, gentlemen?
How you doing, man?
Hello?
Listen, we're talking about the Porter-Crawford fight, which apparently is going to be taking place, although some people won't believe it until it happens. What do you think about this fight? What are your initial thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I don't blame people for not thinking that with all this cancellation because of somebody sneezed hard or whatever. I don't blame them. And look, the fight itself, I'm happy that it's signed. I think it's a good fight. Now, it may not turn out that way, but I think it's a good fight. I think it's a good test for a 34-year-old man who hasn't been tested yet. 34 years old, hasn't been tested at like that elite level. Now, you can say what you want about Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter has fought his people of his peers that are at the top level. You can argue about Kavaluskas versus Danny Garcia. I think Danny Garcia beats Kavaluskas, but who knows, right? Who knows how that goes? I think Shawn Porter would beat Kavaluskas. I think Spence will beat him. You know, you get what I'm saying. I think these guys beat him. I think Kavaluskas is a notch below those guys. Not saying that he can't compete with them, but I'm saying he's a notch below those guys, in my opinion. But this is going to be a nice test for the 34-year-old who has been basically on this Roy Jones kind of, ride. Without his James Toney, without his Bernard Hopkins. He's a skilled fighter.
The Woods of the world.
Yeah, I mean, he's a skilled fighter. You could tell that he's got a boxing IQ and all that, but it's been against lesser level competition. And then when he fought somebody who was kind of at his level, he stinked the joint out.
Yeah,
and I think he did that because he was nervous and he couldn't box with the guy. That's my opinion. Maybe there was something else in his head. I have no idea, but in my opinion, it looked like he was like, "Yo, I can't box with this dude, so I'm just gonna do this sticking out my tongue." Like I'm winning, and when I do stand and box, he pops me with a jab to my face, and I start punching him behind the head, all that stuff. So there's a lot to prove, even for a guy who's considered top 5 on almost everybody's, all these mainstream pound for pound lists. He's at the very least top 5, top 3. I personally don't think so. I don't think he's proven anything to be at that level. Maybe top 10. He's maybe top 10.
Well, recognize
people in the chat asking you
I just want to finish real quick. I just say he's a very talented guy who hasn't been tested, and I'm happy he's taking this fight. I think he can win, but like BDA was saying, I'm not convinced because he hasn't done it against elite level competition. But go ahead.
In the chat, somebody's saying if you're gonna come up with a conspiracy for it.
I don't know. I don't.
Come on, man.
Listen. People can say what they want about my conspiracy. The thing is that I know what I'm looking at in a boxing fight, and sometimes I give my opinion. I'll say this guy sucked. It looked suspect. That's all. I don't think Shawn Porter. I don't think. Look, Crawford is. Even though Crawford, I believe, is overhyped, he's not liked by the industry, and he's especially not liked by the PBC. Right. So I think Shawn Porter is going to be given every chance to win this fight.
Oh, really?
Except for the fact that Top Ranks is the main promotion to the whole thing.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is, they won't be no Kell Brook weigh-ins. It's not going to be that.
Right. Yeah.
It's not good. That's not going to happen. You ain't having that kind of car. I'm going to come in healthy. My balls are going to be dropping the day of the weigh-in, and you're going to have to fight me like a man. That's it.
Okay. So.
Yeah, but the Kell Brook thing, do you really think he needed a way, to fuck him up in the weigh-in or something? I mean, because...
I don't think so. I don't think he needed that, but I don't think he would have knocked him out with a jab.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
I don't think he would have knocked him out with a jab, okay?
At 147, I think he would have, regardless of what he weighed in the next day.
He's not knocking him out with a jab. He's not knocking him out with a jab.
Moving.
I don't know, man.
I also think that's the level that Kell Brook's at now. What is the last time he fought prior to that? And when's the last time he took on a world-class competition?
When was the last time you ever saw Terence Crawford knock anybody out with a jab? When?
I don't know, but
He's about to fight on a pay-per-view.
I never thought Rosario would have gotten knocked out with a body shot from freaking the younger Charlo.
My point is that the guy looked like a zombie on the weigh-in, and then he knocks him out with a jab. That's what I'm saying.
So
recognize.
I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe in that would have happened anyway had he been fully healthy. Whatever. I don't believe that. You got to.
But the only healthy would have been at 154. Is what I'm saying.
Right. Well, at 154.
Doesn't matter what. Doesn't matter how the weigh-in happened the next day.
My point is he was drained, Chief. My point is he was drained.
We're agreeing on that part.
He wasn't the same Kell Brook. That's Kell Brook versus the win he has over Kell Brook is not the same as going into a fight with Shawn Porter. It's not the same.
No.
Well, but it's not only that.
Yeah,
it's the fact that it's not only that.
Hello.
It's the fact. Hold on, Jimmy, please.
Yeah,
it's not only that.
Oh, you can hear me, dude. I'm sorry, dude. I'll tell you, fucking I did that on the app. The fucking reboot thing they send you, and I hit it, and they just changed everything. So I'm like a fucking lost moron over here. I don't even know if I'm on or not. Sorry. But anyways, yeah.
But I was saying,
I was just told too that the sticking point on making this fight was that it had to be a pay-per-view. Like that was the thing. And and I would think that the PBC pushing that would be for a couple of reasons, right? They're making all their other fighters fight at that level. Like, how can they make a fight? Because he's not putting on anything at this level, and he's putting them on in pay-per-view. So now if all of a sudden this Shawn's going to go fight on ESPN, it doesn't make the PBC look good. So on top of, now he doesn't have to worry about covering the nut as long as it sells. That's a big, if with all the piracy. It also covers his ass with his other fighters now, because they could have said, well, you're letting him fight on ESPN, but where it's going to be a pay-per-view. I don't know if they're going to talk about it publicly. I don't know if Top Rank will let it be known that it was the PBC that pushed for the pay-per-view, but it makes sense. Why would but it's still, I'll be honest with you, it kind of pisses you off when you pay that monthly fucking fee so you don't have to pay for pay-per-views. Wasn't that the whole selling point on these apps?
Exactly.
So all of a sudden, here you are, boom, and it's a pay-per-view. I don't know.
I mean, it's a good fight, man. It's a good
think?
fight, but pay-per-view, they're exaggerating. I mean, I'm going to probably try to see how I can get it over here. But, because again, some pay-per-views here aren't shown for some reason. But look, the crux of this thing is whether Shawn Porter and Crawford can actually be a competitive fight. And I think most people would say that it will be, by virtue of the fact that Porter is very well conditioned. He's got tons of experience when it comes to fighting the best at 147. But I want to go back to the Kell Brook fight, because you guys were talking about that. Yeah, Kell Brook was not only drained, but the fact that for as long as the fight went, he was the one beating Crawford. Not by much, albeit, but still, nevertheless, he was beating him. I'm thinking Crawford has actually... Because listen, people bring up that somebody mentioned in the chat, well, he's gotten better since the Postal fight. I actually think he's gotten worse. I mean, like I said, he's
more experienced, right?
But he was struggling against. Yeah, listen. When people say,
"Well, it's okay to struggle,"
when people say that, when people, I was finishing. Sorry. When people say that, well, Kavaliauskas is good. Yeah, Kavaliauskas is good, but he's a front runner. We saw that against Crawford, and we saw that against Virgil Ortiz. Kevin from Chicago put it the best. He deflates. He's a deflator. He's not a balloon that gets bigger with time and that ends up floating and going to heaven. No, he goes straight to the ground. He deflates. And I think there's something missing with the dude. Now, it's a good win, don't get me wrong, but to make it out to be as proof that Crawford is this monster 147, I'm still not convinced.
Right. Yeah, but against Kavaliauskas, he just went in there and got him out of there. Like, he just threw punches like a maniac. He was getting caught. But like I said, when Crawford knows that his opponent won't hurt him, he just goes fucking apeshit sometimes and starts trading. But he's been winning these fights. He hasn't even been trying, in my opinion. He hasn't really been trying.
He's just overpowering these guys right now.
Well, yes, exactly. Yes,
yeah, he's overpowering them. He's much stronger than them. Maybe with the Jeff Horn, he used more boxing, you know what I'm saying? But he still ended up overpowering him, right? In the end. But it came from boxing skills against Jeff Horn. Now,
I was going to say what you said about Brook being really if he was really stressed out or weight, then I would say the same thing. He probably didn't have a lot of his punches that night, and I think if that's the case, if you're really, completely dehydrated and like that, you're not going to have sting on them, and that would have also made Crawford probably not worry that much about him at the time. I'm just saying if he was really dehydrated.
Crawford's going to have a chance now to show that he can do that no matter who you are, right? Like
there's exactly. Look, this is huge. This is a huge fight for him.
If he blows out Shawn Porter, understand something. Shawn Porter is pretty much at the level of Spence.
Oh, exactly, brother.
Because he got a W over him. That fight was close. If Spence was above him, clearly, it would have not been a close fight. Okay. Now, remember, so he has a real quick, Jimmy. He has a chance.
Oh, that was me.
That he can beat a guy of that level pretty easily. Look, get the win. That's what I say.
And if he does, I was gonna make excuses. Shawn Porter was shot.
Knocks him out, and does that. What kind of excuses can you make? But if it's a close fight and it could have went either way, come on, bro. That's the way.
So this shouldn't be a close fight.
Yeah,
this shouldn't be a close fight. This shouldn't be a close fight, right?
I don't agree with that statement. Okay.
This
is the reason why. Now, people have their own expectations. I don't have any expectations for Terence Crawford. He's 34 years old and untested.
At welterweight.
I welterweight.
heavyweight.
I get it.
At heavyweight.
No, Postal.
he
Come
was
on,
always
Postal was a
good.
good.
He was
Postal at
always the
140.
biggest.
Well, no, I'm going to respond to all that in just a minute when Frank's done.
Look, he's the big. He's
All right.
in my opinion. This is my opinion. People could have this. You're not going to convince me. I've watched the guy long enough. He is unproven, in my opinion, at 34 years old. Okay, I did not like any of the work he did south of the 147 division, and I haven't liked what he's done at 147 as well. Okay, now this is his chance. Now the eye test tells me he's very good. He's on the level. He's at the very least on the level of Spence and Porter and Danny Garcia. He's at that level. He could beat those guys. Okay, now we're gonna find out if that's true or not. That's all I'm saying. Don't take it offensive, man. It's nothing to take. I know people
Not
like
offense,
him.
I just have a response, and I'm waiting
No,
to take
just to anybody. I know you like him. And I get that. But to me, this is going to be the chance to prove you guys right.
Hit the like, fellas. Hit the like.
Agreed. So here first, because there's been a lot that you've said that I wanted to respond to. First of all, comparing him to Roy Jones is a little bit unfair because Roy Jones handpicked his
Right,
opponents.
Roy Jones is better. You're right about that. Go ahead.
Oh.
Okay, because you're my friend, I love you. I'm going to let that one go. No, we all know that Roy Jones handpicked his opposition. His own manager, his own promoter. He picked
I
who
don't
he
know if
wanted.
this thing's fucking working.
Jimmy, man, you're on, man.
Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry. Fuck. How do I mute it then? I don't. How do I mute? I'm trying to mute it. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Jay's talking. Our Chief's talking. Man.
Chief's talking. Chief.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to fucking mute it. I don't. All right, go.
Okay, so that comparison kind of was a little bit drastic, and Roy Jones is he's a better athlete than almost anybody in the past 20 years. But as far as comparing the rides they took together, we both know, and everybody in this panel knows, that Bud Crawford didn't handpick his opposition the way Roy did. And that's just all there is to that. Now, as far as who he did and didn't fight, I mean, Ricky Burns is a 3-time world champion in 3 different divisions. So was Gamboa, who Steve Kim pointed out was supposed to be fighting Mikey Garcia, who pulled out, and Bud took in and took over. And even though there were some rocky moments, he pretty much beat him down, and he was on a streak. So, I mean, he's had a resume that people just like to dismiss. That's what kind of aggravates me. He may not have liked his work, but the quality of opposition is just the fact that people in America don't know who he's fighting. That's not really that's a really crappy excuse for boxing fans, in my opinion.
Well,
and then you go ahead.
Just real quick, yeah. When it comes to me, Chief, I've said I think he's gonna beat Porter, and it's not necessarily the opposition that he's fought that's the problem. It's how he's looked against them. That's the problem.
And at 147, I agree. I do agree. At 147, the quality's not been that good, and even though he's knocking these guys out, it's not like it's not a performance you're going, yep, the PBC better watch out now because Bud's here. Man, Did you see that last fight? Did you see what they're not doing that? And I'm not pretending that he has. But when people keep saying he hasn't been tested his whole career, do you even know who he fought? Do you even know the accomplishments of the people that he has faced? And that's what kind of aggravates me when I hear that from most people outside.
I know.
Outside of recognize.
I know he's fought, and I'm not impressed. I'm sorry. I mean, Victor Poster was the number 2 guy. He stank up the joint. He was terrible. He may have won, but he was disgusting that night. I lost all respect on that night. I said, I don't like this guy.
I was not impressed.
He's a terrible representation of top pound for pound best. Like pound for pound best don't fight like that.
He was a pay-per-view and it was boring, and I'm sure Bob Arum was pissed off.
It did 20. Think about it. It did 20,000 buys. It didn't help him at all, and he's been
it didn't. It would have gotten 20,000 buys. It would have gotten 20,000 buys if anyone would go on and dominated him. You got to admit that part.
That's true.
The amount of buys had nothing to do with his performance.
But can I say this about the postal
I get it. But it didn't.
Can't tie one into the other because it doesn't work.
Is he gonna fight Spence like that though? Like, just go for the win?
I don't know. I hope he don't.
Like,
I don't.
It's gonna be boring.
Is he gonna fight Porter like that? Is he gonna fight Spence?
Maybe that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I started thinking today. It's like, wait a minute.
I hope he does.
You
maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe he's just a lot better than these guys. But here's the point: we're gonna find out now. And he's, again, I got to reiterate, he's 34 years old. And the reason why I reiterate that is because if if he fails expectations, he might have waited too long because the eye test is there. The guy got skills. I mean, you can just use your fucking eyes. He got skills. He got boxing IQ. But he might have, at 34 years old, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong.
Recognize that's the only point, dude. It really is what you're saying. Listen, this is it for him. 34 because he's 34, and he knows it. His sister is a fucking social media fucking hoe. She's on it 24/7. She knows what's being said about him. You know what I mean? He kind of avoids it, but I'm sure he knows what's being said. He knows what's riding on this fight. This might be his only fight. Listen, like you just said, I've been sitting back and listening to fucking Chief Simmer and listening to you say that. And I'm kind of giggling and shit, but it's so right. You're both right. And listen, it all comes down to this. If he goes out and dominates this kid, it's going to fucking show that what Chief, I think of his abilities. If he doesn't, though, if he goes out and it goes to life and death and it's the same thing kind of what Spence did against Porter, that's not good. Then that's it. He shot his load. He's never going to get back on that. So he knows that going in. And I know, again, in my gut, I think he's going to put it together that night. And 34, if it was 1970s, 80s, that's old. 34, no, without hard mileage. Depends. And I heard he's not a very heavy drinker. You know what I mean? So who knows about that end. So
think of this. Think about Porter being the aggressive but not hard punching welterweight Mike Tyson, because he's got the bigger name, he's got the bigger resume with fought the bigger names, and then Crawford being the Evander Holyfield, 35 years old. Not a lot of people are impressed with what he's done with most people, and he hasn't looked that good lately. But who was motivated in that fight? Who wasn't? And here's one thing before that. What happened was the fight prior to that for Evander Holyfield? Riddick Bowe 3, right? If he would have knocked Riddick Bowe out that night, he never would have gotten Mike Tyson. If he dominates Shawn Porter, he ain't getting anybody else from the PBC. He looks like crap to where he's life and death, just like Jimmy just said and Frank just said. He's still not getting anybody else from the PBC. So
Virgil Ortiz.
Right, but I mean... Okay, so outside of our channel, the mainstream people, who do they want to see him fight? PBC fighters, because that's who they know.
Can you just remind me which PBC fighters? Because I'm a little confused. So yeah, Spence. Who else do you have over there?
Porter,
Danny Garcia.
No, Danny Garcia, guys, come on. Wait, hold on. Wait, are we still talking about Danny Garcia? Are we still talking about Danny Garcia? Come on. No. Let's
like I said, they're going to recycle PBC guys somewhere. So I mean, if
he still exists, Bucho.
Well, nobody wants to see if Crawford beats Shawn. Hold on, if Crawford beats Shawn Porter, we don't want to see him fight Danny Garcia after that.
You would have thought
nobody wants to be Spence,
but they still made that fight.
Come on,
Spence or Boots Ennis. Boots Ennis, I think, is actually probably the cream of the crop over there right now.
But they won't match him up against Crawford.
And that's a bad statement. It's not. That's a bad.
Even if he looks bad.
True. If that's a bad statement, and it's not a knock towards Boots Ennis. Boots Ennis hasn't fought anybody, so if he's the cream of the crop, that's bad for the PBC. Again, it's not a knock towards Boots Ennis because Boots Ennis is just starting his career, even though he's had a lot of fights. But
the eye test.
He's passing
the eye. He's really.
By the way, can I say something? Can I say something about? I just want to real quick.
Eye testing, but
real quick.
I'm not convinced.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. BDA.
Yeah, so real quick, because we're talking about Porter and the wins and blah blah blah. Somebody in the chat says, I think I don't like the way he wins reasoning is strange when winning is the name of the game. It's a fight. To that, I just like to say that type of reasoning is faulty when you're trying to gauge who's going to win a fight. Because again, I've heard that from people when they go, yeah, but Terence Crawford's winning, so who cares? Yeah, but he's winning, but you're seeing the flaws in his game while he's winning. It's the same thing with Wilder. People were saying, yeah, but he's knocking people out. Yeah, but he's looking like trash before the knockout, and you saw that those trash holes exposed by Tyson Fury. And it's sort of the same thing with...
That's Steve Kim's saying. He says it all the time. It's not how you...
I haven't finished. Yeah, I haven't finished yet, please. And it's going to be the same thing with Crawford. But with Crawford in this fight, I guess, Porter... Can you guys hear me? Hello?
I
Yeah, I
can
can.
barely hear you, dude. I
Hello?
can barely hear you. Just me.
Jimmy and Recognize are having some issues.
Yeah, but
I can hear clearly.
Chief
I can
and-
hear you just fine.
Okay, I can hear you. I can hear you guys now. I don't know. It just made a sound. Now I can hear you perfect.
I don't know if
Sorry
Recognize and
about
Jimmy
that.
are fucking with me now because they always
No,
play
no.
the same
Swear to
game.
God, I thought I heard you. It was like mumbling. I couldn't hear you. Swear to God.
Okay, well, I just want to
BDA, you
say,
hear me?
Yes,
You
that's
hear me,
fine.
BDA now?
yeah, I hear
Yeah.
you. I hear you. Recognize. I hear
Okay,
you.
okay, okay.
Just real
Can
quick.
you hear us?
I can hear all you guys now.
Okay, we're
Fantastic.
good now, BDA.
All
We're
right,
good, BDA.
I just wanted to say that I don't think Porter is going to be the guy to expose Crawford. I think the guy who's going to expose Crawford is going to be Spence or somebody that can box long range. Porter jumping in like that, it's going to play right into his hands. That's number one. Number two, Kenshiro in the house. Shout out to Kenshiro donating me the super chats. I hope Porter wins so that But's hood sister will shut up. Who's But's hood
Jesus.
sister? Who's But's hood sister? I don't get it. Who's But's hood sister?
Okay, so Bud's hood sister has been on Twitter. Now, look, I feel opposite. I totally feel opposite about all this stuff. I like her more than I like him because she's got like a belief system, you know. Like you attack my brother, I'm coming after you. Now she's annoying. She should be staying in the kitchen and making babies. That's my personal opinion, but what? I'm just saying, man. Don't get offended. I don't speak for the BDA family. I'm just saying this is my personal belief, right now. But I do like her because I like her more than her brother. Let's just put it that way. She's more how you say it? She's more charismatic. She's like sticking up for her bro. She's not gonna let you talk shit about him. And I understand that. That's her brother.
Oh, you're right about that.
He
There's
probably
no
helps her out. He probably helps her out. You know what I'm saying? He probably takes care of her.
there's not a welterweight today that's got charisma. I mean, Danny's the closest thing you've got. So you're right about that. She's got more charisma than her brother, but she's got more charisma than every welterweight in the world right now.
Probably.
No, I like
Yeah,
Spence when he's high.
I like Virgil Ortiz.
I'm sorry. Championship level guys that are already proven. I like Virgil Ortiz. He's still a contender at the moment. He hasn't quite reached that because he hasn't had the opportunity.
He beat up Kavaluskas just as bad as Crawford.
Oh, I'm on his bandwagon. You know this, but I basically, if this fight weren't happening and anything else was being put together, I wouldn't care about this or Spence Crawford because I'm on to Boots Ennis and Antoine Russell and Virgil Ortiz. Those are my guys right now. I want to see them fight as often as possible, but it's not happening, and it's also not the subject of the show.
Well, speaking of the subject of the show, I want to show you guys a little package that we put together here. Again, it's not a film analysis, but it's just a little something to get people started on the this fight, the Porter versus Crawford fight. And I think you guys are gonna. I think it breaks down a little bit what exactly is going on. So I'm sharing the screen with you guys here so that you can see it, and I'm gonna share it on YouTube as well so people can see it live there. And again, I think this is a preview of the smoking gun for me of why Crawford's gonna probably beat up. I don't know, stop, because I think Porter is very well conditioned. But look, Crawford's big stylistic advantage is he loves when shorter guys jump on him. Case in point, and this wasn't exactly a shorter guy, but it was Jeff Horn, who loves jumping in, and Crawford just had a field day with him, picking him off, catching him with big shots. And again, there's very few things that are worse for a pressure fighter, especially an unhinged one like Horn, than a guy who's got quick hands and power at the same time. And Crawford just broke him down. This was like a lower version of Mayweather Hatton. Just one guy who usually likes to rough guys up and usually has that type of success, just being met with superior firepower. And you can see that Crawford knows how to switch angles in there. He goes to the body there as well, which helped break things down. And then at the end, he just had Horn completely tired. And that's when he started upping the tempo and he just broke him down. Another example is against Felix Diaz, gold medalist, and just ended up getting butchered on the way in. So now that I've shown you that, guys, let me just show you Porter here being very wild when he jumps in. Look at those openings there. I mean, it's pretty hard to take advantage of that because, to Porter's credit, he is very quick. He's got that quarterback explosiveness. But he's very open there.
Strong for the division too. He's super strong for that weight class because he's really like a middleweight.
Yeah, but look at how wild he gets, and then this is where he got caught against Thurman, and
Right.
there again, and then he got wobbled in this sequence here. So
that might not work against Crawford. You know what I'm saying? He might not be able to take that.
And Ugas too was having a bit of now, but
so big strong guys, big strong guys, kind of like rocked him, right?
Right.
So what's Crawford?
Well, what do you consider
Crawford is a welterweight. Crawford's a welterweight. Hold on, real quick. Crawford's a welterweight. That's a big dude who has pop. You know, maybe Crawford, maybe Porter at this point can't take those kind of big punches like he did back then. You know, my point is, Terence Crawford's going to have opportunities to shine in this fight. 100%, he's going to have the opportunity to shine in this fight.
Okay, so there's for punching power, real quick before we start this video, if you don't mind, BDA. Danny Garcia fights at 139 in the amateurs. Doesn't have any pop at welterweight against anybody. Spence 152 in the amateurs. Same with Thurman. At the world class level, not a real pop against anybody. Porter, middleweight in the amateurs. No pop, period. He went 20 rounds with a lightweight. It took him 20 rounds to get that win. Crawford turns pro at 135 and is knocking people out. So the power advantage is clearly him. Now, can he knock those guys out? I don't know. But anybody that they would have fought, that Ocampo, what's his name? The brother, Peterson, that Spence fought, I see Crawford knocking them out too. He's got real power. It's not just little power. If he were a lightweight that's still knocking these guys out, why aren't they doing the same thing if size has anything to do with it?
Oh, that's why I said he's going to have time. He's going to have plenty of opportunities to shine in this fight because he's getting caught with big punches coming in. And I think, like I said, Crawford is just as big, if not bigger. There's some of these guys who've caught him coming in and punches at least as hard as them, if not harder than they do. So he's going to have that opportunity.
The only one is Adrian Broner that actually floored Porter, who wasn't a real welterweight.
Right. But it was nothing. It was a nothing knockdown, really.
It was a flash knockdown. But I mean, he still hit
still
him flush.
Still a knockdown, yeah.
Well, it's good. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how.
You know what? When I hear everybody talk about was Crawford knocked down or not. First off, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
yes,
excellent. All right, thank you. That's just another indictment of this era of boxing. Because we wouldn't even have focused on shit like that back in the day because there was so many good fights happening. Is somebody strangling a bird? What's that fucking sound? But anyways, I just would like to see more fights like this. It's just we got to see, and there was a lot of bullshit to make this fight. I think way too much for the level of fight it is. Just bums me out. That's all. But anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's true. It's that's why. Well, we'll get into the shenanigans of boxing later, but there have been a lot of hijinks in the past couple of weeks. So I showed you that the whole Crawford. He's got that he loves fighting guys like Porter, but
hello,
Jimmy.
What the fuck is going on? Is everybody there? You guys fucking playing.
Jimmy,
you guys fucking with me right now? Is this like some fucking? Can you hear me?
We can all hear you.
Because I'm like, what the fuck, man?
I don't understand. Okay, maybe it's just me.
If the sound goes off, just wait a minute, just wait a few minutes, and it's gonna come back, I guess. So.
Yeah, it's gonna come back.
Because I was talking, I said that's it. And then I didn't hear anybody. Then I heard him laughing. I'm like, fucking, now it's been like a minute. What's going on, man?
What?
That's
okay.
Weird, maybe I don't know.
You're on your phone, Jimmy. Get on your PC, man.
Yeah, phone.
Jimmy, every time you get on the show, I suggest get on the PC. Ditch the phone, because every time you come in with the phone, you can't see the video and you can't see the volume button. It's a that phone of yours. I'm convinced it's possessed by a demon or something, and it's fucking with you. Get on the PC, man. All right. So what I was gonna say was, Porter, Crawford likes guys like Porter, but maybe Porter's height or shorter height, that is, could actually be an advantage because Crawford.
He knows how to dip low at the right moment, BDA, sometimes, right? Like, you'll see him just, like, dip low enough where he doesn't get caught fully on the face. He's, like, getting nipped here, touched a little bit on the top of the head. So, I still think that's going to be a problem for him going into the Crawford fight.
Let me show you, man. Let me show you, though. Because, again, it's Crawford has shown that problem of lowering his hands. Well, first of all, let's look at Porter, how he does it. And this was against Brook here. As you can see, he likes to change levels when he's coming in. And he likes to come in with overhand shots. And he does it pretty quickly, rather. As you can see here with his hooks.
Yeah.
And he mixes in, of course, straight shots as well. And very quick, as you can see. Goes to the body, up and down. And see how he makes these guys lower their hands? This is against Devin Alex.
Spence is very stationary, where Crawford is a little bit more elusive in that position. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Spence also doesn't have an uppercut. I mean, Crawford does. He'll use it with both hands.
That's true. Yet, my point remains here is that Crawford has been hit by shorter guys with overhand shots because he drops his hands. It's a bad habit. And as you can see here against Gamboa, he got tagged a lot. And Gamboa, see, that's when he was hurt there.
Because he understood Gamboa was way smaller than him. Remember? There was that whole controversy. He was about $150 something on fight night.
Luis.
Yeah. And so he kind of just knew he was much bigger than Gamboa.
Gamboa definitely rocked his ass, too.
Yeah, he still got
He was definitely rocked.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the clip that we were talking about here earlier. The infamous whether he got hurt by Kavaluskas or not. Let's look at.
I can see the stream now on my phone. I'm pumped.
Oh, really? All right, that's good news, man. Fantastic.
Nice.
I've been waiting for
But I
this.
can only hear you. You're the only person that can hear recognize. So.
Oh, you can't hear
you hear me?
Oh, jeez, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, listen.
I can hear you, and as long as I don't have the stream going.
All right. Well, listen. This is when
You
Kavaluskas.
probably muted him, but anyway.
Yeah, you probably got me muted, Jeep. Somebody tell him that he's in the chat. Somebody tell him here in the Discord.
But I just heard him right now.
Ah, jeez, Luis. Listen, I can't stop the show every 5 seconds to see if things are working out.
I honestly, Butch, I think I'm gonna bang out, dude, because I'm having all kinds of troubles here, dude.
All right.
Come back on your PC.
Yeah, I'm not
No,
in my
no,
house,
no.
and I'm fucking. I'm right next to a Google place where they store all kinds of fucking hard drives, my buddy, and I'm having a hell of a time. I don't know what the fuck's up, so yeah, I'm making a mockery of this. Oh, shoot to the house.
All right, man. Take it easy. Now, this is Kavaluskas here. Chief, this is what I think. Look at this. He hits him with the overhand right. Fucking Crawford dropping those hands. Hits him flush.
Right.
Kavaluskas runs on him. Hits him with a left. Crawford goes for that. Look at that type of clinch. He's going for the Devin Haney type clinch against Linares. He's trying to tackle him. Kavaluskas says, "Get the fuck off me," and he's stumbling around because he's hurt. Normally,
that's a legit knockdown. He landed about 4 punches before he went down.
Well,
that's a legit knockdown.
And look, play it slow, please.
All right.
Okay, let's go slow. All right.
Right hands, we all acknowledge that.
One punch. He ducks in. Watch, right? He's gonna
I'll
try
give
to
him
hold him.
That's not a real shot. That's not a real shot. And then he throws him to the ground. So I'll give you 2.
He throws himself on the ground. He's just Kavaluskas is fighting out of what he's trying to do. That's a knockdown. By every definition. If you understand boxing, those are knockdowns. That's a knockdown. That's punches landed.
Show it in regular speed because we already pointed out to Frank that most of those didn't land. One lands, 2 lands.
Those two landed.
The first 2 punches land, right? He goes for it. He goes for a wrap up and he the ground.
Knockdown. That's a
knockdown.
I don't know.
Let me say this. If you get hit by a shot and within 3 seconds you're on the ground, refs usually call that a knockdown.
Of course they do.
Let me see.
Of course they do. If Crawford lands the same punch, the same sequence, and it's the same situation, they count it for Bud.
Boom, boom, and the rest of that is mauling. There's no clean punch.
That's a clean knockdown.
2 punches land.
Why is Crawford so desperate for a clean to go for a clinch?
He's hurt, Bucho, because he's hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I can't tell if he's really hurt. I mean, I can't tell if the shot really landed like flushing. But the fact that he's so desperately trying to fucking clinch, I mean,
like when I say hurt, Bucho, I don't mean like, oh, I'm out of here. No, it's boom. I lost my sense for a moment, and I have to do something. And if you go down, that's a knockdown.
Look at that.
But he landed 2 punches. He went for a clinch. Most of that stuff in the clinch were not punches or that landed cleanly, and that's what put him down. He pushed him.
But Jay, I mean, Chief, this is the thing. Look, he eats the right.
Yes.
Then he eats a very short left, and look at the type of clinch it is. It's not even like, let me try to get away. It's let me jump in and try to tackle him. Look at this. Yeah. He's grabbing him by the waist.
And then secure the clinch.
He caused himself to get knocked down. He caused himself to get knocked down after the punch. That's a knockdown.
He caused himself. It's not like he took a knee. He went down because Kavalushis pushed him.
Doesn't matter whether he took a knee. He punches him. He loses control, tries to grab him. He goes down. That's a knockdown.
The referee didn't deem it that way.
Well, the referee...
I don't blame him for it because it looked like...
Referees have messed up a lot of shots. They've messed up a lot of calls in past.
I fully acknowledge the first 2 shots. The rest of that stuff, that didn't land right there. That didn't look like it landed. That definitely didn't land. And then that's a push. That last thing is a push. That's what sent him to the ground.
Did the first left hook land?
The second shot, which is
boom
this.
left.
Yeah.
That shot.
Right now. And miss. Hold on.
That land.
It right now.
Landed.
Yeah.
Temple shot.
Miss. And that throws him down.
He throw him down. He went down on his own, bro. I don't know what you're looking at. He's not throwing him down.
Okay, that last left that didn't hit anything, what was that?
That's a punch. That's not a throwing you down. Land. That's a punch.
It went around.
It doesn't matter if I hit you and you're fucking falling all over the place. That's a knockdown.
Guys, we like each other a lot, but you hearing yourself, you're saying if it depends,
if I punch you in your arm, if I punch you in your arm and you fall down, is that a knockdown or not?
Look, all right.
Chief, if I punch you, answer the question. If I punch you in your arm,
we're talking
when
about
you were blocking the punch,
watch this sequence.
And you get knocked down, is that a knockdown? Yes or no?
Watch the sequence, please. Watch. Well, first of all, you just said it doesn't matter if the punch lands; it's still a knockdown. I mean, if the punch doesn't land, it's not a knockdown. That in itself,
first of all, I said punches landed. You're saying he's throwing him on the floor. I don't see that.
Wait. If I take a knee, that's a knockdown.
And he's going down.
Can you pick it up after the it was the right hand, that left hook? Can you pick it up after that left hook, please? Boom. When you slow it down just a little bit.
I mean, is that Kavaluskis throwing him down? Is that what you consider throwing somebody down?
Look, that doesn't land. That doesn't land. And then he cooks his arm and he goes down. No
okay, but hold on. Let me again. What I'm saying. Well, go ahead, Bucho.
I mean, if your glove touches, if you're pushed and then your gloves touch the canvas, then it's not a knockdown. But
right, it's not a knockdown.
Right, I could take a knee, right? It's a knockdown.
If it comes from a push,
like 2 punches on him. He dropped him, man. I don't know. Maybe I need to ask this question.
He landed 2 clear punches at the very beginning of that sequence. I'm not arguing with you at all. He's bugged. I'm not arguing with you at all.
Right there. He lands again.
All right. Hold on. Let me try to go. Let's go to the chat. Let's go to the chat. Hear what people are. Let's go to the chat. Let's go to the chat and see what people are saying. Let me just get it. Solo King says, no knockdown. Johnny Blaze says, that's a damn knockdown. Boxing Dialogue says, even if he got dropped, so what? Okay, so he's undecided on that one. Papaya Salad says, get him, Chief, get him. What About Me says, did you notice the guillotine choke on his right arm too? Get These Hands says, recognize, just hates Crawford. Okay, so that's not a productive argument. We're talking about...
No, I mean, listen, that's not an argument, but...
I don't believe that for a second. I've known Recognize for a while. I keep dropping your name, but I mean, I've known you for when we talk off the record all the time. So because we're butting heads here doesn't mean I don't respect your opinion. And you know this. But the right hand... The right hand followed by the left hook, I'm on board with everything that you're saying about the fact that he's buzzed, the fact that those clearly landed, and the fact that he tried to clinch. What Kavaluskis followed up with was a right that clearly went over his head, a left that clearly went around him. Then he started trying to go to the body, and those wide
and he's
hooks going
landing.
around his arm.
He's landing.
I don't see his body shaking from a
I
body.
maybe listen. You could see when the first one lands, it snaps his head back. Then the other one lands and it drops him. It's a knockdown.
Kenshiro with the best comment. Kenshiro with the best comment of the night says Crawford looked like he's trying to blow that dude. Oh, come on. No, but can I say? Let me say something. Let me explain.
Like a video, man.
BDA, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What would make a man submissive to another man after a punch? It's because he's about to what? He's about to go down, and he's holding on.
If I may say something here,
yes. He was hurt. He went down. So look, whether it was
I'm not arguing the fact he was hurt.
Whether it was a knockdown or not, he shows a lot of flaws that you can hurt him. The right guy with enough power to, not only that, enough condition and experience to follow up on that, he can't be in trouble. Look, Crawford
talked about that before, and I agree with you.
Crawford, but is by no means, even if you think he's top 3, he's not invincible. That guy is very beatable.
Yes.
Okay. He's extremely beatable, in my opinion. Yes. Okay. So that's all I'm saying. He's not, at least in my opinion, he's not top 5. Okay. I see 5 guys. I could possibly see 10 guys better than him, but he's maybe definitely top 10. He belongs to be, like, if somebody argues he's in the top 10, I don't have a problem. To me, he's not top 5. He's not better than Canelo. He's not better than Lomachenko. The list goes on.
Well, if I may say something about the knockdowns here, about whether this was a knockdown or not. Was that?
No, just so much hate, but go ahead.
Yes, I'm a hater. I'm a hater. I understand. I am.
No, but listen, to me, in my limited experience, if a guy gets tagged and within 3 seconds, one, he gets hit with another shot, goes for the clinch, and then tastes the canvas, that's a knockdown. We've seen that in other situations. I can't remember the specific details. I can dig up examples, but look, he gets hit 1, 2, 3 within 3 seconds, or even less. Actually, maybe I counted too fast. 1, 2 seconds. He's on the ground. I mean, if it weren't for the punch, why was he going for this type of clinch here? See that? He got stunned a little bit.
He's buzzed. He lost.
We're all on the same page that he's buzzed. We're all on the same page that he's buzzed and off balance and trying to hold. We're all on the same page there. What sent him to the ground after that's what we're arguing about. And it's back to Frank's point, which recognize his point that he's correct in, is that these flaws that he gets hit with shots from people that sometimes he thinks they can't hurt him. We made this point earlier. If he's not worried about their power, he just walks in on people. He probably should have been a little more wary of Kevaliskas. Should he be wary of Porter by his record against who he's fought? No, but I was wrong with the Charlo fight. I was wrong with a couple other fights. So it's not saying I can't be wrong here, but based off of the evidence of what I'm seeing, he shouldn't have to worry about that. Now, if that's Spence, he might need to worry. If it's Thurman, I think Thurman shot. So at the welterweight now, but if it's Boots Ennis or Ortiz or Antoine Russell, he needs to worry. So the level of competition has something to do with it. He probably misjudged Kevaliskas from the Ray Robinson fight. Thought he.
Absolutely, yeah. He definitely needs to impress against Porter. That's a given, and I think he will. But I mean, this whole discussion we're having is about him not quite living up to the welterweight hype just quite yet. But I think he's going to make a statement here. If I may also just don't forget to hit the like, fellas, hit the like, and we're going to be opening up the phone line soon, so please don't forget about that. Now, when it comes to, so he keeps getting hit with those type of overhand shots. Now, of course, it's a moot point because he ended up knocking Kevaliskas out, but even here, though, in the later stages of the fight, he kept getting tagged with overhand shots. Now, the other question here is Crawford an inside fighter? There's a very good sparring footage out there of him at Gold's Gym, I believe. No, not Gold's Gym. What's that famous New York gym where Daniel Jacobs used to train for a while? Gleason's, yes, thank you. Gleason, yeah, he's sparring at Gleason's, and he's sparring a junior middleweight contender, the one who lost to Teixeira, undefeated Dominican, I think, guy, very good, and he's fighting a little bit on the inside, but you can tell he's just working out a little something. For the most part, as you're going to see in this clip here, he's not really an inside fighter. Once people get on the inside against him, he prefers to clinch. So here you see him defensively. He's got very good defense, but then he'll go into this, the clinch. And this is something that Pacquiao didn't want to do. He's not a clincher. Well, by the way, this is a footwork here, rather, not necessarily the clinches. There you see him using his arms. Very good defense. He can turn it into Rigondeaux when he wants to with his footwork. Just keep guys turning, and I assume that this is what he's going to try to do against Shawn.
When guys start holding BDA, listen, I don't care if you like the person or not. That's an act of submission. That's at that moment, I don't know what to do other than grab.
I'll agree with that to a point. Yeah.
Back. Okay. The reason he's doing that now, he's not quitting. There's a big difference. So people need to. He's not quitting. I'm not saying he's quitting. What I'm saying is, at that particular moment, he's ran out of ideas and it's a little nervous. That's all.
Well, yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make real quick.
I'm sorry, BDA. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say real quick that he's not an inside fighter. That's why I think he's clinching so much.
No, he's kind of a mid-range in and out kind of fighter. Mid-range in and out.
But there are many fighters today that don't know what to do once you get past that mid-range because they're not schooled inside fighters. And Porter apparently, Crawford from this footage can fit that bill. You can say it's submissive. I'm not going to argue the semantics about that. But apparently, when it comes to the inside, on working the body, anything else, he chooses to hold because he's not proficient at pulling the glove in and out-shouldering and out-muscling guys.
So maybe Porter's best idea is to try to get on the inside.
Could be because if Crawford doesn't go straight to turn the shoulder and start getting cranking those uppercuts, which he can do, but if he doesn't do that because he prefers to hold on the inside, that's Porter's best game.
Yep. Right, and you saw Jeff Horn, who's a guy who doesn't know how to gauge the distance. He fell into the clinches. Raimundo Beltran, who's very good at cutting off the ring, couldn't pin Crawford down. So it's going to be, Porter has his work cut out for him. He's going to really have to play ball, and he's going to have to avoid those powerful shots from
the fight where Crawford could shine. It could be stylistic. It could be also that he's just that much better than him, right? So, but it's also a stylistic matchup that can, depending on the ebb and flows and how he's not letting Porter on the inside, could make him look better than anybody that's beaten Porter. Because some of those losses are questionable.
Yeah, I mean, they've always been competitive fights. Now, the other thing here is two can play that game, because Porter, when he wants to slow down the action, he can do that too. He's got underrated footwork, and he can stay on the outside. So I'm just going to show you a couple of clips of what I'm talking about here. We don't have to pause or anything, just let it play. But here against Thurman, he would do that. He would pressure, and then for 30, 40 seconds, he would actually stay on the back foot, try to regain his energies a little bit, get a breather, and then also lull guys into thinking that, giving them just a different look. But then he can also counter here, as you can see. Yeah. And then he'll come in. This against Ugas, who's not a pressure fighter.
He was a good amateur boxer, so, he knows how to box.
Well, see here against Ugas, he wasn't giving him an opening, and Ugas wasn't exactly eager to jump in there.
No.
So he gets people's respect. People think, Porter... Yeah, people say, Porter can't hit hard. Well, you don't see these guys jumping at the chance to attack him. And look, even against Spence here as well. Just going to let this clips play here, as you can see. Shuffling, moving side to side, and then all of a sudden he'll jump in. Jab.
I thought against Spence, I thought he outboxed him. Now, he may have lost the fight, but I thought he outboxed him.
And you know what, though? You talked about him getting on the inside. This is him against Thurman. Do not let Porter get close to you. Because if he gets to you, he'll stick to you like, look at this. Especially since he's got those short arms. Some of these guys, they get suffocated in there. That's why I'm thinking...
It's going to be key for Crawford to counter him with some nice uppercuts. Or some nice, hook, 45-degree hooks. Boom. If he could establish that, man, he could probably stop Porter. Could probably stop him with something that he doesn't see coming.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see Porter being able to do this because I think Crawford's just gonna hold him, like we saw earlier against Horn.
Do you think Crawford is stronger at welterweight than this Thurman right here?
I mean, I think so, man.
He might be a little stronger, right? A little bit stronger than that.
Yeah, people don't think so because he's not an inside fighter, and they don't usually see him walking guys down like Spence does, for example. But man, he's a big dude, man. He's about one. He's got a wide body. I mean, he looked bigger than Amir Khan. So it's a very difficult fight for Shawn Porter here. I don't, based on just on what we saw, recognize. Do you think he? Who would you pick at this point immediately? Recognize? Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I'm here, boss. Go ahead.
Yeah, who you, based on just on what we saw, the stylistic matchup and all that, who do you think wins this one?
Stylistically, you mean? I'm sorry, I just missed the question by a little bit.
Who do you pick? Who do you pick? Who do you pick to win?
Right now, Crawford and Porter?
Yeah.
I got Crawford right now. Right now, I'm leaning towards Crawford to win.
Because, I mean, I'm telling you, I don't see how Porter really... I don't see him outworking Crawford. I don't think Crawford's going to let him. I think his footwork's too good. I think his clinch game is on point, or about as good as he gets for professional fighters. He can just slow the action down when he wants to. And I don't see Porter knocking him out. So I don't see...
I'm the Crawford hater, right? I'm the Crawford hater, but I got Crawford winning this fight.
Exactly. Go ahead, Jimmy. I hear you.
I think he's going to... I think he's going to catch... He'll utilize the uppercut. That's when he'll come in handy if he, Porter starts bum rushing him, with that clinching style he usually does. But so I ran it up there like I told Bucho, but I got on my screen now it says Bucho's muted, and it won't let me on the icon. It won't shut it off. Bucho, say something. Can I hear him?
You know what, Jimmy?
Yeah,
I'll be in New York soon. I think I'm gonna have to travel over there to go see you and show you how to get. I'm getting.
No, I just told Bucho. No, I never run. You know when it says on the phone, it says run an update. It's always update your phone. I always brush it off. Yeah, I brush it off. And my brother was just at his house, and he's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" Because he opened my phone. He's like, "This dude." He goes, "You never update. You got updates going back almost a year." And he explained why that fucks up. So now I have a whole different Discord thing, and it's all pretty cool now, actually.
Well, listen, the phone lines are open in case anyone wants to call in. Now, you guys discuss, based on the clips we just saw, talk a little bit about the matchup and what you think. I mean, not just the matchup, but I'll leave you with a question too. If Crawford beats up Porter, what's next for him? Is Spence gonna come back? Is Ugas the guy to beat now? I mean, you guys talk about that.
I don't know. Man. That whole Spence thing is very sketchy, right? That whole thing, if it's true, and Crawford beats Porter, I can't imagine Spence thinks he could still beat Crawford. You get what I'm saying, Jimmy? Like, I don't think that
100%. If he goes in there and does what he has to, and he has to, listen, make no mistake about it. He can't just go in there and just win. He's got to win, and he's got to, look good doing it. Because it isn't just how you win, it's how you look doing it. I mean, obviously, that's what sells tickets. Rigondeaux's example of that. You can get wins, but if they suck and nobody wants to see it. So if he goes in there and does, and I think he knows, I know he knows what's riding on this. And if he goes out there and puts on the performance on Porter that nobody else has been able to do, like win him decisively, I think that just the only thing else after that would be a Virgil Ortiz fight. I don't see Spence taking that fight. What do you think, Recognize?
How did Spence beat Porter, in your opinion? Like, was it convincing? Was it like one-sided?
No. I thought it was a very close fight myself, personally.
Okay, but now we're putting it like so. But for Spence, it doesn't really matter how he beats Porter. But when it comes to Crawford, he has to destroy Porter.
Because of what I'm saying, because of what people will say, Bucho. You know what I mean, dude? Right?
Yeah,
people online. That's what I'm
just
talking about.
People, so you clarify because I know people in the chat are going to be coming at you and like.
Oh yeah, no, that's why I'm saying it, because there'll be the haters will be like, oh, this, oh, what, you know what Spence would have done to him? You know what I'm saying? That type of talk. That's for that reason. I think he has to put all his goods on that night. He has to be on point, and he has to look good, and he has to beat him more decisively. Well, I always say this: you always know what the guy thinks in the fight. You want to know what he thinks? What Porter thought? Obviously, he thinks Crawford is a harder fight, and because think about the money. He was paid $2 million to fight Spence at the time. The reigning, pound for pound, welterweight, blah blah blah. Everybody was saying it. This is when Crawford needed to come across the street to fight for the PBC. Everybody was saying. All of a sudden, Bob Arum offered. That was like a year ago when he first offered the $2 million. And what did fucking Porter, basically laughed at it, scoffed at it. Well, that's ridiculous. I'm not fighting him for $2 million. But you fought Spence for $2 million. So obviously he thinks it's a tougher fight for him, or he wouldn't have demanded so much more money. What do you think, guys?
I don't know what the whole thing. Like I said, I didn't follow. Go ahead.
You see, I think it's a money ploy. So, for instance, I don't believe Porter is afraid of Crawford, right? Or views him more dangerous. So Al Heyman gets in his ear. It's like, look, they need that fight. Let's push it to purse bid. Let's push it to whatever we have to. You're going to get a certain amount of money that they're going to have to agree to because you're fighting you is a necessity for him. So Crawford, Porter's just playing ball. That's all he's doing. Right?
You see what the fucking PBC did there too, dude? I mean, to cut it off, check this out. Pretty funny. 11th hour. This thing went down to the 11th hour. The 11th hour, PBC capitulated. Basically, they didn't want to go to purse bid because they weren't going to offer any money. I hear they're completely upside down in the Plant Canelo fight, like big time. Like they have all their money, whatever they could scrape together to put that thing on. And for that reason, they capitulated until the last. Because wouldn't it look good, right? Think about it. If they wouldn't even have put in a purse bid, say DAZN did and like Top Rank, and they didn't. So at the last minute, they caved into. But the main sticking point was the pay-per-view. But anyways, go. I just wanted to tell you that.
Well, let's go to the phone calls here real quick, and then we'll pick up on that, because that's an interesting subject, especially the pay-per-view. I mean, 2021, we're still talking about pay-per-views. 773, you're on the air. 773, what's on your mind?
I gotta say, I'm glad they made this fight. Shawn Porter versus Terence Crawford, two established veterans going at it. I hate when they try to push some dude up the ranks who hasn't earned his keep, hasn't proven himself through the ringer, like they're trying to do with this Virgil Ortiz. They're trying to shove him up the rankings and make him a household name. But with guys like Crawford, guys like Porter, they've been in there, they paid their dues, and now it's gonna be a big time fight. That's the way it should be. They did the same thing with Teofimo. Who did he beat? Menard? And then they put him in there with Comey. He beat some dude Menard. Next thing you know, he's fighting Comey for a world title. Like how they're handling this. They're putting two established veterans in there. It's going to be a good, old-fashioned slobber knocker. You know Porter's coming forward, and you know Crawford isn't afraid of a fight. So I'll be looking forward to this one. Anybody hating on this fight is just a pure old hater.
All right.
This is a good classic fight. Can't much.
All right, Kevin from Chicago is turning into old Pappy all of a sudden. Are you? Hey, I always wonder, are you old Pappy, or because that accent you're putting on, it's quite a show. I'll tell you that much.
Press 1.
It appears that the host has already dialed into this show. Only one host is allowed per show. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, wait a minute. What the fuck is this thing over?
Well, I think what it was saying, translation, it was telling Kevin to go fuck himself. That's what I think it was saying.
Yeah, sorry about that, Kevin. Something,
Sorry, Kevin.
What the hell is this? Why is this
who's hitting on this fight, though? Nobody's hitting on this fight. You recognize he's not hitting on this fight.
Well, Bucho, I sort of hate it a little bit in the sense that I said that it's not
I'm not hating on this fight. Just to let you know, Bucho, I'm not hating on this fight.
Can you guys hear me, by the way? Can you guys hear me, by the way? Because there's a
we can.
Okay, the thing is, maybe Kevin is talking about me because I said in the beginning of this broadcast that I think Crawford's gonna beat him up, and that's why I'm not looking forward to it as much as we should. But you know me, come fight night or fight week, I'm gonna be all pumped up. So, but I hope Kevin wasn't talking about me because I'm looking forward to it. How about you guys? From 1 to 10, where would you rank this matchup?
An 8. An 8, exactly. Yeah. It's a contender against the champion, you know what I mean? Yeah.
8.
Yep. I just, honestly, I'm not going to lie, and it's not because I'm cheap, you know what I mean? It's not the case. I just don't think, I'm from the school that pay-per-view means the best against the best. That's just my opinion. I don't like to see these subpar fights. I mean, does Porter even have a belt? Yeah, does he right now?
No.
What belt does he have? The WBO or nothing?
WBO.
Nothing.
Who?
Porter has nothing.
Oh, Porter, no, nothing.
Crawford's got the WBO.
Yeah, Porter's got the WBO. Crawford. I meant to say Crawford. But yeah, so Porter he's not even a strap. So not too much pressure on him, wait on that. But think about it, if it wasn't for the belt that Plant has, I just want to look, before I call the fight, man, I just look on Watchwork, seriously look at that dude's resume. We're going to talk about that. He's been fucking Matt Soft as a joke. Another one, a pay-per-view, only because of Canelo's name, but I'm really disappointed it's a pay-per-view. I think Top Rank is fucking on back on there. Get away from the pay-per-view. It's a dead model. Do the app thing. So.
Okay, by the way, so here's what other people are saying. Sean O'Connell says it's an 8. Norman Luis, shout out to Norman, says solid 8. JJ says 9. Jam said, what would be a 10? Okay, how about a 10? Can we all agree that, let's say, at least for us, let's say Canelo versus Triple G3, that would be a 10, right? Or actually, okay, no, because
at this point, no. Let's say the first fight was a 10 out of 10. The second fight was a 10 out of 10, yeah.
Joshua Fury.
Teofimo Lopez Lomachenko, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was super
pumped. AJ versus Fury, if it happens, should be a 10 out of 10.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko. I remember that last 2 weeks before the fight, I could feel a buzz on the YouTube boxing community. I was looking forward to that fight as much as any other that year.
Yep.
And so so this one, it's not quite there. I wouldn't be that like a Porter Crawford. I wouldn't be quite there. Reckoners, what did you say? Did you say a number? Reckoners, tell me.
He said 8 too. Recognize said 8 earlier.
Most people said 8. I'll give it an 8 too because it is, again, Porter is a veteran and he doesn't really give anybody easy fights. So yeah, of course, but it's just
it's like a fight everybody will watch, but nobody was calling for. That's just my opinion.
But like you said, Jimmy, this whole thing 2021 and we're still talking about pay-per-views. I mean, it's a little embarrassing.
Practice? Talking about practice?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
No, pay-per-views.
Oh, sorry.
It just, conservative estimates have piracy running around 60%. Think about that. And I think that proves a lot. No matter what, Pacquiao's age aside, the fact that thing only did 225 or what was it, 225 or 250,000 pay-per-views? Mm-hmm. Wow. That's bad. That's real bad. That thing didn't make money. But that's another whole show. But
it did 250.
That's not good. I mean, Pacquiao was $500,000 just for showing up. You know what I mean? He'd pull $500,000 just for showing up before. The fact that he was still fighting, the top welterweight.
Pacquiao's washed up. He only did 250.
I mean, look, at this point, the UFC has no big popular names. I mean, the biggest name they have is still McGregor, even though he's lost about 2 fights in a row or something like that, and he's getting into fights now with white rappers at the MTV Awards. So it's not like the UFC. But boxing, though, you got to admit, Canelo and Joshua, they need to fight top-level opponents. I mean, take a look at the Joshua-Usyk fight. I'm pretty pumped up for it, but I haven't really seen that much buzz on YouTube. And forget about the Fury Wilder 3, the rubber match. Apparently, that's doing crap numbers. I think, Jimmy, you talked about
that. There's potential.
Well... I don't know.
What do you mean? Do you know that the fight for Lopez against this kid from Australia.
Kombucha,
Villa's putting on. That's supposed to happen in 3 weeks. Do you know that if you go to the agency, they don't even have tickets on sale yet for it?
Oh,
and
jeez.
according to, as of today, Lopez's camp said they haven't got no travel attack. What is the word begins with an A, whatever. But
Itinerary.
thank you very much. Yes, they haven't received anything yet, and that fight's 3 weeks away. That's odd. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and it's on a Monday. Why do they? Apparently, they're going to go up against the NFL. Are these people insane?
And they're going up against Fury Wilder too. That's going to be the following night, right? And aren't they holding this on a Friday? And then the following night's supposed to be
No, Jimmy, it's a Monday. They're holding the fight on a Monday.
Oh, it's a week
of the fight. Oh, okay.
If it's in Australia, it's probably a Monday. It's Sunday here,
Well,
right?
I guess it's local. It's in the United States.
Yeah, you're right.
But that's just odd to have no tickets on sale at the agency. I mean, where the fight's
3
supposed to be
weeks
happening.
before the fight. That is weird.
That's very odd.
Steve Kim mentioned the fact that back in the day when pay-per-views first started, like Tyson Ruddock won, that was on a Monday night. A lot of them used to be like that. But they did it in March when the only thing you might have competed against was college basketball. And that's a big thing. But like if you do it before the Final Four, an open game where the NFL's done, baseball hasn't really taken off yet, and NBA's just kind of in their that's a perfect time to hold it on a weeknight because there's not much going on. But that was back in the 90s. We've got.
And then they didn't care what else was on. To be honest with you, everybody worried about what they were doing. That's how much power boxing had back then. They didn't worry about NFL and shit.
And it was Mike Tyson.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is Bud Crawford and Shawn Porter. They're not canceling the World Series to let you know the update of this fight like they did against Bo Holyfield 3.
I mean, I remember when Morales and Pacquiao fought the first time. That was in March 2005, I believe, and they did good numbers both in pay-per-view and at the gate. It was a fantastic crowd. They were screaming and hollering. They were pumped up for that fight. That's boxing at its best. Great matchup for the Morales Pacquiao, the first one. And it was like you said, it was in March up against college sports, but it appealed to the hardcore boxing fans enough that they got about 300,000 pay-per-views, which was good for those featherweights. And the fact that I think they almost sold out, or actually sold out the arena where they were at in Vegas. So just goes to show you that when boxing does it right, it can attract hardcore boxing fans en masse. But this Kombucha versus Lopez fight on a Monday on pay-per-view, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but Blink Thriller or whatever that shit company is.
PDA. It's not kombucha. It's Cambosos. Cambosos.
His mama called him kombucha. I'm gonna call him kombucha. How about that? No, but it's listen. By the way, it's come out now that Teofimo Lopez was saying, I don't know. Do you guys think Lomachenko deserves a rematch? Now he's flat out saying, I think he doesn't want to give him a rematch. Just goes to show
he
you. He
straight up said, "No way, he's not doing it." That's
that's
Lopez's last stance.
Then that begs the question: what was the plan? Beat Lomachenko once, no matter how, and just leave? I mean, because
if he hangs around that division, if he hangs at 135 and doesn't give that kid a rematch, then fuck him. I think that's the only way. It wasn't like he went in and took him out.
Hold on, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, BDA nailed it. He gave this scenario right there. He said, so the plan was to fight him one time and that's it? Yep. No matter how he won.
The only reason this behavior is gonna stop if once he stops getting the money he wants. Yep. You know, this behavior is being encouraged because he's getting money. So remember Danny Garcia's father, Angel Garcia, he was saying, well, they're paying us this, what, why not fight, why fight Shawn Porter? Remember that? Or something like that. Like saying
exactly what he said. Why fight guys like that when we can fight
Stalker?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, that's the same mentality.
This thing's $20.
Yeah, listen, Teofimo's father will tell you whatever he wants to tell you, and his son as well. They're gonna bullshit you, man. They will forget. It's not about legacy. Let's be honest. It's not about legacy at this point. They want easy fights, and as long as they're getting the checks, they're happy with that shit. They're happy.
Well, I think they've had a big reality check themselves. Think about it. They've had to knock this shit down to $20, dude. Imagine that. To get this thing to sell.
Well, now they're realizing that they're not as popular as they thought they were.
Yes,
you know what I mean? And they can't tell me that I'm wrong, because if prove me wrong and go fight Lomachenko and say that you want to fight Lomachenko. At least say, you know what, that's the next fight. After we get rid of Camboso or whatever, then we're gonna go for the fight. No, they're not even telling us that. Actually, Jimmy just said that fight's not happening. They don't want that fight.
So the interview went kind of the way, but I've only heard the paraphrase. I haven't heard his exact words. Was 140's in my future. So he wants to go to 140. He's outgrowing the division. I'm not making excuses for the guy. This is just what it sounds like. And he's not interested in a rematch with Lomachenko. But the problem I have with it, where I'm back on y'all's side on all this, is when they said, well, what about Devin Haney at lightweight? Because they didn't mention Devin Haney at 140. He said, well, if someone's trying to take food off my plate, well, wait a minute. I mean, Lomachenko's trying to take food off your plate, and you don't want this, but you fight Devin Haney. So and that goes back to like the Floyd Mayweather-Roy Jones thing. If I can't get up for this fight, so I'm going to get up for a different fight. I've already beaten him once. I'm not going to motivate myself to fight him again. So I want a different challenge, regardless if that fighter's earned their shot or not.
You know what, Jay?
And by the way, Teofimo Lopez, don't you think that he has fans? I mean, I'm sure I see some people in the chat there. Some Teofimo Lopez fans are there. Wouldn't you like, as a Teofimo Lopez fan, for Teofimo, his father, to give you some sort of like
definitive
news about
some definitive news?
What's the word I'm looking?
Definitive.
Definitive, where they're going, what they want to do next. They don't say anything. Like they don't give a shit about you fans. They don't care about you guys. Absolutely not.
Well, that's
they don't even
wrong.
ask you like, hey, my fans, what do you want me to do next? I know you have a lot of fans, and I love my fans. Who do you want me to fight next? Nothing.
Well,
I've dealt with his kind before, and plenty of times, and they're all like that.
Dealt with his kind.
They don't care about you, man. They don't give a shit.
You make it sound like you're talking about a different type of speeches or something. Yeah, but I mean, look, listen, Butcher, the problem is not that they don't say anything. The problem is they say a lot, but it's different things. I mean, let's run it back. After Lomachenko, it was, I'm not giving him a rematch. I already whooped him. I mean, if you called what happened on that night a whooping, I think you might be on drugs or something. But okay, let's go with it. Let's say, okay, you beat him. Then he goes, well, I want to give him a rematch, but I want to unify. That's what they were saying, right? I want to unify.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
And then, right. But then he goes, well, that's why we're fighting Kombucha, because I got to keep one of my belts by fighting him, and I want to unify, therefore I have to fight Kombucha. Then it becomes, okay, please mute your mics, fellas, because I hear somebody making tea in the background.
Sorry, that was my fault. I'm muting right now.
That's okay.
Just mute. Yeah, thanks.
Then it says, well, I want to fight Kombucha to keep the belt, but they're forcing me to fight in Australia. I'm going to vacate the belt. So which one is it? Was it for the money, the Kombucha fight, or was it to keep the belts? Then it becomes, yeah, okay, we got everything ironed out with Top Rank. We're going to make the Lomachenko rematch. Now it's, I don't want to fight Lomachenko. So, I mean, what the fuck? And one final point, please. And I said this on Recognizes podcast. Some people now are saying, the Lopez fans saying, well, come on, wouldn't you rather see him fight Josh Taylor, the bigger opponent, much more dangerous? Yeah, if he's acting this way now with the lightweights, asking for more money, asking for the ring to be big, no rematch clause, blah, 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 how do you think he's going to act when it comes to negotiations with Josh Taylor? I mean, this guy does not want a hard road. People say, well, he beat Comey and Lomachenko. Yeah, but come on, fellas, let's be real. He's acting like a diva. Lomachenko doesn't act like a diva.
What you're basically saying
two fights ago.
Why, at this point, for everything that Mr. BA has said, has led me to believe that we shouldn't believe. Why should we believe in anything that these people say? Because they contradict themselves, they change their minds after, they flip flop. You know what I mean? Well, so at this point, they have lost all credibility has been lost. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, like 2 fights ago, before he fought Comey, I believe, he was still rated a top prospect. That's actually the terminology people were talking about him on boxing scene. Top prospect. Fucking low. So he went from that, took out Comey, then he fights Lomachenko. And if he does, and I agree 100% with BDA, if he hangs at 135 at campaigns at that weight class and doesn't fight Lomachenko, I think it's a punk move because you didn't go out and you barely beat him. Some people don't even think you did. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you. If you don't do it, then if he goes up and fights on 140 and fights Josh, then you know what? Oh wow, he's gone up to 140. You gave the belts up and he's fighting on people like Josh Taylor. I'm not going to dog anybody for that move, but if he stays and campaigns 135, Bafangul.
Well, he's got to fight somebody at 135, and I'm with you guys. I want it to be Lomachenko, and I'm not a Devin Haney like lover, wannabe, or fanboy, but that would be an excuse to me. I'm not going to fight Lomachenko, but I am going to fight. Okay, fine. Then now the fact that he's avoiding the questions, I'm with you guys. But if you're not, I mean, fight somebody real outside of this mandatory contender. If you're going to stick around, it's got to be against someone who's right there with you, either a top young prospect / champion like Haney, or the man of the division that's uncrowned at the moment, in some of our opinions, my opinion anyway, and Lomachenko. But don't just hang around and fight the easy fights like what we're alluding to right now. Fight someone big. So if you're going to go to 140, I don't care who you fight, you're not the champion there anymore, you got to earn your stripes. 135, there's only 2 names that anybody really cares about, because we already know he's not going to fight Davis, because that's only in-house fights. So that really leaves Ryan Garcia, who everyone knows is still trying to get his life straight, Devin Haney, or Lomachenko. We, on this board, seem to think would rather see Lomachenko.
Absolutely.
Did you get the message I sent? That's his statement. Did you guys get that picture with the message? Because that was that's the last statement Lopez made regarding Lomachenko earlier last week.
I mean, look, listen, here's what he's saying. This is a direct quote according to Jimmy. This is from Lopez himself. It's kind of cute how everyone thinks he's going to get me again. I'm moving forward. We're past that. We're looking at bigger and better things like Josh Taylor. There's no rematch. Had I lost, they would have never given me the opportunity at all. Why do I have to give it to them? I'm not doing that. Well, first of all, how does he know? Can he see the future or a parallel reality where if he would have lost, Lomachenko definitely would have? If it would have been a close fight, I can see Lomachenko. He's got that type of competitiveness where he would go, okay, let's run it again. That's what he did in the amateurs.
That and Bob would want to have in-house money of doing the fight again.
Exactly.
So he didn't even look at who his promoter was. I mean, I'm kind of a defender of Bob on this network. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I don't think he's the crook that every person that, if there's a PBC fanboy thinks he is because someone else told him that. But when it comes time to in-house money, and I own the rights for both fighters, and we had a good fight the first time, hell yeah, I'm rolling it back, because that's what he did with Pacquiao and Tim Bradley. Made him fight 3 times. The numbers really didn't equal out, but he kept up. It was in-house money, so he made out on top, even if it didn't reach the levels he wanted it to.
All right,
so of course he'd do it again.
And here's the other thing. People are saying, oh, you guys are hating on Lopez. Well, first of all, the fact that people always come down on Lomachenko and not on Teofimo Lopez. I mean, let me ask people in the chat that are saying we're Lomachenko fanboys. Have you ever seen Lomachenko ask for more money or stall fights because he's not getting the type of money he wants? Have you ever seen him complain about the gloves, about the size of the ring, about dodging fighters? Oh, I don't think I want to fight this guy. I don't want to fight that guy. Oh, I'm all of a sudden I got asthma. I can't fight. I'm going to Italy.
He's a real one.
Have you ever seen him teasing, oh, I'm going to fight this guy, and then having his father say, no, he's going to fight that guy, and then him saying, no? Have you ever seen any of that? Have you ever seen Lomachenko throw his promoter under the bus? No. If he did, you guys would be saying Lomachenko's a bitch. But Teofimo Lopez does it. No, you guys are hating on it. I mean, come on.
I mean, to me,
he fucked up his own. He fucked up his own world.
I was never a fan. I'm gonna say this now. I'm not a fan now, and I never will be a fan of a guy like that. Never. It's.
Yeah, you're keeping it real, dude. You were like that. You were saying that shit about him before the fight.
I already know his type. I don't like people like that. We can't even stand in the same room together without something bad happening. I don't like people like him. So I'm just keeping it real. And he's living to the expectations that I thought of him. And he's living to it. I'm not shocked by any of this stuff.
And clearly has an inflated sense of self-worth, I'll tell you that. The fact he would demand millions of dollars for a fucking Mando that nobody really, outside of hardcore people, even knew and expected pay-per-view, I'll tell you, my opinion of him dropped huge, his whole attitude during that bullshit.
Well, I mean, he said he wanted to be like Floyd Mayweather. And he said that Mayweather had to have a lot of these fights on HBO and regular TV in order to get to where he's at, so you got to pay your dues. You're right, you do. Oh, guess what, Tio? You haven't done that yet. Why are you expecting bigger money than what you think you deserve? Now, could Oscar De La Hoya get $5 million for fighting David Kamau on HBO? Yeah. Why? Because he'd sell out an arena, and he put it on a Saturday night against any sports team that was out there, and he would get just as good a ratings, if not better. Or back in the day when people could set one VCR in one room and still watch the fight in the other, they would get equal ratings. You can't do that, Tio. You don't know who I am. That's fine. But if this gets out there, get the reality check. You aren't at that level. And one more thing about what Rick and I said. That sounds exactly what like he told me like a year and a half ago before he fought. And it's the same thing he said word for word almost about his opinion of Tio back before he fought Lomachenko.
And you know what, man? With everything you said, Chief, there's no way people are... Because look, we talked about this when he did the Triller thing, Lopez. When he signed on to Triller and we were skeptical, we were thinking, is this going to work? At that time, he was burning his relationship with Top Rank. He was throwing them under the bus. And we were saying, how many pay-per-view buys is he really going to do? Months later, it's all come to pass. He did the numbers. They tried to relocate the fight to Australia because no one's going to watch it. No one wants to pay to go see that fight live. The pay-per-view numbers are going to be abysmal. They already postponed this fight about 2-3 times. Unfortunately, here in the boxing world, if you beat the best, that doesn't necessarily make you a box office star. This guy thought that, Teofimo Lopez thought that, and he's learning now the hard way that there's not that much. He had to crawl back to Top Rank, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if Top Rank threw him a bone, but they actually put some other provisions there to sort of let him know, listen, you bend the knee, motherfucker, because I don't see...
Well, he's expecting all pay-per-views. I guess that's part of the deal. He told Bob, I only want to be in pay-per-view worthy fights, so I'm sure Bob... Listen, you know what? And my thing is this, people say you stick up for Bob. Do I think Bob's a snake? Of course, he's a successful boxing promoter. How could he not be? But he's been fucking doing this shit since before most of you motherfuckers, everybody listening to the show was even born. You know what I mean? The dude was making fights with Muhammad Ali. This dude's been in it forever. He understands what makes money. Big fights, not Twitter spats.
Exactly. And by the way, somebody in the chat saying, why did Lomachenko fight Krolla? Because he was supposed to fight Comey, but then Comey dropped out and they had to bring Krolla in. And Lomachenko, that's a whooping, what he did to Krolla. That's a whooping. That's not winning the first 5-6 rounds and then getting your head snapped back the last 6 and calling that a whooping. That was a whooping. And look, he was in no position to... Lomachenko's the type of guy is, if a guy drops out of a fight, they give him a subpar opponent, he'll go ahead with it and just try to look as impressive as possible. He's not going out there to sting the joint out. That's why I understand why people hate Lomachenko. I really am at a loss because boxing fans love to talk about how we want to see the best fight the best. Well, here you have a guy in Lomachenko, no complaints, doesn't look for an easy way out. He fights everybody and he fights in an entertaining fashion with skill, and yet people still hate him. I don't understand so-called, I love the so-called boxing
all
fans.
Demoralization. So, for instance, you got a guy who's a blue-collar kind of guy, hands-on, honors his duties, right? That guy gets shitted on. The guy who acts like a clown, dresses in colorful clothes, right? The very low people with low IQ, their eyes open real wide when you show them some bling and shine, right? It could be, you could put it on shit, and they'll be like, oh my god, look how unbelievable that is, right? So you're dealing with a demoralized society, and obviously, I'm talking to whoever gets offended by this. Like, if they get offended, they know I'm talking about them.
Exactly, yeah. It's the litmus test, right? The
closing to one of my favorite comedians, I don't remember his name, but he used to say, and to anybody out there who I ever offended, all I have to say is, how about that?
Oh my god. Who's
I don't remember his name. Remember when MTV used to do the half-hour comedy hour? He was one of those guys.
Well, I mean, look, listen. To move away from this subject, it's kind of disappointing when, like I said, boxing fans talk about how we want the best to fight the best, but when a guy comes out and outright lies to you or tries to deceive you and just wants to fight a guy for the money and thinks that and makes it seem as if he's only there for the money, then... and you root for that guy, I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to hear... That's why these people... I take notes, by the way. These people that go, oh, Lopez, he's the best, blah, 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 and Lomachenko sucks, taking names here, and I start to realize who is a real boxing fan and who's a guy that roots for specific boxers.
His fans actually on Twitter fucking talking it down. Like, who argues against the best fight the best, and they do, oh, he doesn't deserve another rematch. It's like, what the fuck is going on? And you know those motherfuckers don't buy pay-per-views. It's, tribal. That's what it is. It's all based on that. Lomachenko, look at who he's fought. Nobody in the professional ranks in history of the sport has ever fought as many current or ex-world champions in their first 15 fights as Lomachenko? Nobody. That means he has the best resume, like Stephen Edwards said, of any professional fighter he's ever seen. So when I hear people talk shit, it's like you're just a fucking dummy. You don't have to like this kid. You can think he wears goopy clothes. I do. I think he dresses kind of weird. But if you try to fucking downplay his talent, you're an asshole.
So,
end of story.
To piggyback off of what Jimmy's saying there on the first 17 fights of more world champions, the TBE, according to many fair-weather fans that don't know much about the history of the sport, Mayweather didn't even fight a world champion until his 18th fight, and he didn't fight a single ranked opponent prior to that. So this is already now. He turned pro at 19, and Lomachenko turned pro much later. I understand that you can't compare apples and oranges to oranges when it comes to this, but when you're talking about from the beginning of a career till now, that's the only thing you compare. You can't compare his resume to anybody else's.
Dude, Deontay Wilder fought his top belt. He never even fought in 40 fights. He never even fought anybody in top 20. That's what I'm saying. Plant the same thing. Never fought anybody. And so many examples of guys soft as puppy shit resumes for attack Loma. That's why I know why he's fascinated by it. Because it doesn't make sense. There's something behind it.
You know, you could put Lomachenko, Manny Pacquiao, and Triple G all in the same box because people love to insult their integrity and everything about them, saying they never fought anybody when they give you great fights and have excellent resumes. And then they'll defend the Charlos.
Well, you ever notice too, you forgot Usyk. That's a guy that, since they can't criticize him, because there's not that much drama about him, and he mostly fights overseas, so they don't really know, but all they do is they sweep him under the rug. They just don't talk about him. But Usyk is an exemplary fighter. He fought everybody. For the most part, he tried to make it exciting, and now he's going straight to the big dogs, or for the big dog at the heavyweight division. People don't...
Note the fact that he fought them all on their own terms. Their own turf. He went to their countries to unify that title.
Well, exactly. Let's cut the shit. Listen, this is what it is. What ethnic group was the Great Hope hung around? Let's be honest, right? Back in the 80s when that started, or the late 70s, the Great White Hope. Because what happened in the 60s, 70s, and through the 80s mostly, there just wasn't any good white fighters. And because of that, there was a shift in thing where white fighters just equaled not good. That's why it was always the Great White Hope, Jerry Cooney or anybody else, because everybody was hoping it was going to, I never knew who anybody really was, and for that reason, it's just, I don't know if that mindset has hung in there, and they just can't seem to give Caucasian fighters the respect they deserve. And if that's the case, then fuck them. They're clown showing.
Forget about the Klitschko's ruled the division after Lennox Lewis for over 10 years. Forget the fact that Kelly Pavlik went from prospect to contender to undisputed champion in the same year. Forget the fact of everything we mentioned about Lomachenko and Triple G. I mean, it's not the fact that the Caucasian ethnicity is anywhere just as dominant or anything else, but in the modern era, there have been guys that have stood out, and they get hated on because they don't fit the right categories of the mainstream.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a whole whatchamacallit, package. And we've talked about it before, about what makes a fighter transcend boxing. And sometimes, even if you're good or entertaining, it's not good enough. You have to have something, some sort of, I don't know, intangible, or whatever you want to call it. It's not easy.
You know what it is, BDA?
Yeah.
A lot of these promoters, because of today's era, learn from the past, right? So they learn from for instance, there was enough stars in the 80s from America. You had, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, Wilfred Benitez, and you had Marvin Hagler. All these guys, these are all like in the Americas, right? All these guys come from the Americas. And so, these guys fought each other and they lost. And it didn't take away from them because they had the opportunity to come back from that. So today's fighters are not built that way. So these promoters are catering to them, and they're like, "Well, so if Teofimo takes a loss, God forbid, it's going to ruin him because he doesn't have the integrity to come back from that." But we do have fighters that can take a loss and be just as relevant today after a loss, right? And we're seeing it. But they're not for the most part, they're not the American fighters.
Right. That's a good point, man. That's a very interesting way you put it. That's true. And I mean, again, look, with the YouTube thing, I found out how racial boxing can be. Because, see, people use that as a cop-out. People go, well, boxing's always been racial. Yeah, but how come for all this time, before I was on YouTube, for close to 15 years or more, I was on message boards. I rarely saw, maybe I was just fortunate to be in a good boxing message board that didn't really allow that many fuck kids in there, but I didn't really see that much racism in there, except for, like I said, one or two occasions. YouTube, completely different game. It's all about race for some of these fellas. Again, we have a lot of race holders too, but it's true. It's for some of these promoters. And by the way, Joshua, for example, because recognize you were talking about the losses. Okay, Joshua lost against Ruiz, and some people did make fun of him and say, he's finished, he got exposed.
Right.
He had the right mindset. He didn't let the loss define him. And even though the rematch wasn't aesthetically pleasing, he got the win. And now
what's been the number one dog on Lomachenko? You see it, like, just follow any thread where some clown is running their mouth about Lomachenko, and somebody will, put all these things in, response of making them sound silly. And what's the first thing? Yeah, and they'll say, yeah, what about Salido? What, but he took an L to Salido. So, like, to your point, that's what they do. They'll throw the low. No matter what he'll do from here on in, he could fight continuing to do what he's done. And it'll be, well, he's lost twice.
Well, listen,
unbelievable.
Right, and he lost twice, and we saw what he did in this last fight. It didn't affect him any kind of way because it speaks to the character of him as a boxer, right? So,
exactly.
As a boxer, he has more to offer than just the zero, right? He's gonna bring his skill set. He's gonna lay it on the line, win or lose. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna respect me at the end, and so
bingo, brother.
Go ahead,
and then he's trying to rematch Loma. He's trying to rematch Lopez. And all of us know, maybe the casuals don't know, but all of us know, he tried to get Salido back in the ring, but Salido wouldn't play ball.
Exactly.
Yes, he did. Salido wanted nothing to do with that, and he said that after. No, recognize what happened. Sometimes you guys are saying shit that you get me so pumped up, and I agree with them, like, yes, bingo. Say shit in the background, sorry.
Well, if I may just say something about that, it's the rematch. Some people say, well, come on, that the Nakatani was finished. Well, that sounds like an excuse to me. The same thing they decry Lomachenko's team of doing with the whole shoulder thing. So you see how we got double standards all over the place. Now, I want to mention something. I want to ask you
logic to the situation. How dare you?
Well, you know me. I try to be a little objective when I can, and some people dislike it. Now, I want to ask you something, fellas. The Usyk Joshua fight is coming up, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but I want to get some predictions right off the bat here, because I'm curious. Jimmy, I'm very curious to hear about what you have to say, because when we were doing the film analysis, I got the feeling that you don't think Usyk has much of a chance here. Am I wrong, or like, what's your official pick? If you had to pick,
no, I think that was somebody else on that one, dude. Because I was saying that I think he has a really good chance.
Oh, okay.
I think he has a good chance. Yeah, no, I really do. I think Usyk has that. This is a very competitive fight.
Would you say it's a 50-50
I think Joshua
fight?
knows that, and I prop to him for taking it.
Would you say it's a 50-50 fight, Jimmy, or would you sort of?
For me, it is. I personally think it is. I think a lot of people are not giving Usyk his credit, but.
All right.
I think so too. I agree with Jimmy, BDA. I think it's a 50-50 fight. It's definitely a fit. So, in other words, you got AJ, who's the champion. AJ is a unified champion, right? Mm-hmm. And he's the naturally bigger guy, right? He's pretty good. He's pretty skilled. He's got flaws, yes, definitely, but he's a skilled heavyweight. Going up against a guy who's a little smaller than him, a guy who looks like he has all the skills in the world to beat a big guy like AJ. So, if it's fair, it's no bullshit. AJ wins, Usyk wins. You got to give these guys a whole lot of credit for that fight and that win. And by the way, I'll say the same thing for Wilder and Fury. I think that Wilder's whether it's false, it's false bravado, it's whatever it is. I think that Deontay Wilder's coming there to knock out Fury, and you got to respect that. At least I do. As a boxing fan, He's saying, look, I fucking lost. Plan B, just go all out. You know, I think that's what he's going to try to do. He's just going to go lay it all out on the line. If he gets beat up again, then he just takes his money and goes on. If he wins, he's back in that sweepstake for the biggest fight in heavyweight boxing today.
But he'll never lose, even if he comes out. Of course, he has the hardest punch in boxing right now. But to me, it shines off that. With as far as I'm concerned, you don't act the way he acts. You don't.
I agree.
The fame, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? We've talked about it. Say that shit. The drug, exactly. Listen, and anybody would have a clue what a card on. I mean, the first thing, I think I might have been drugged. You know, really? Well, you had 2 talk screens, bro. So what does your talk screen say? Oh, wait, you don't have it? Like, the fact that you went back to the same commission where you claim that people from that commission was involved in a conspiracy to try to kill you in the ring, and you just show up with your sunglasses on and fucking sit all fucking, pouting like a child. It was ridiculous. He embarrassed himself and he embarrassed the sport with his attitude and the shit he said. And then to show up and act like that, I just no respect for that man.
I agree, but if he goes in there and tries to give a good fucking fight and just goes all out, I'll respect him. I'll respect him in the boxing aspect of the, look, I'm in a shithole right now. I need to get out of it, and maybe I'll fucking drown, but, it is what it is. I'm going to go for it.
The way Jimmy described that reminds me of how Lennox Lewis went out. Oh, it made his face look like hamburger. Wait till I see what I do to him and then his brother. And look at all the stuff I'm going to do. And I beat him down and blah, 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 blah. Oh, WBC mandates that Vitaly Klitschko's your number 1 contender. I'm retiring.
Yeah.
Here's my letter. I'm so brave because they called my bluff and saved me that night and saved the champion. And now I have to fight him. I'm going to go home now. But anyway, I digress. My call on Usyk and Joshua. If I remember correctly, BDA, when you first asked us, a lot of us were like not leaning towards Joshua just because of size, but I even said myself on the air that I have trouble seeing a smaller guy overcome size that much until I actually see it. It wasn't until I think Precise got on the line and started pointing out the fact that fast hands, pushing him back, peppering his face, doing things that frustrate Joshua made him almost want to quit, and Fat Andy did it. And Fat Andy's not any faster with the hands than Usyk. He does. I don't know if he hits harder. I don't think he does because I know he's got weight. Ruiz, 260-something pounds, 280 pounds, but his record doesn't show like he's walked right through so many people a la David Tua, who also had a lot of weight and looked kind of flabby at times, but he was destroying people. First round, second round knockouts. John Ruiz, who later won the world title in 19 seconds. Andy Ruiz has done none of that. And he still was able to get to Joshua more in the first fight than in the second, but he was still able to touch him and still able to frustrate him with speed. Now you're getting someone with speed, boxing IQ, and solid skills, and is a lefty who will actually hit the body. Going up against a guy who doesn't hit the body, who is slower of hand, he's a much bigger guy and recognizes right. He is skilled in Joshua. All these things are true about Joshua. We don't know his chin. We don't know if Usyk can hit hard enough to stagger him. We do know he can't hit him, and we do know he could possibly pepper him up a little bit, and then the rest is up to Joshua. How's he going to overcome that?
You know what, man? Call me crazy. Sorry, Chief. I thought you were finished.
I was just going ahead and just call and say I agree with the 50-50. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Call me crazy. I think Usyk is going to try to walk him down. Maybe not early on, but I think he's going to be actually just standing in front of Joshua more than people think. I don't think he's going to pull a Rigo or he's not going to fight like he fought Chisora. I think he's going to try to push Joshua back, and I don't know if Joshua's going to be able to handle that type of pressure. I'm not confident in that what I'm saying, but I'm just visualizing it. Because people always say, well, come on, BDA Klitschko put pressure on him too in a certain way, and he couldn't tire him out. Actually, he did tire him out, and Klitschko's never exactly been an all-out fighter. I mean, Usyk is a different fighter. He's smaller than Klitschko, yes, and he doesn't hit as hard, but he's quicker.
He's not known as like fleet of foot, where Usyk's got good feet. He can move his feet around. The thing is, he just can't let Joshua get in his good stance. He just has to keep him moving. Tag him when he goes to front. Just move anytime he sees him getting his punch stance. That's a hard thing to do, but I think he has the talent to do it.
Joshua loves to use that straight right, which is great against the southpaw, and he has no problem whipping a left hook right around it. So if he doesn't, he can't avoid the jab, like abandon it. But if it's not his primary weapon and he just uses it more as feints to set up the right hand and then whip the left hook around, and Usyk doesn't, and remember I'm big with lefties and righties in foot battles, if he's got his foot at least at neutral position where they're at each other, he's got a really good shot at giving Usyk a long night. But the likelihood that Usyk's going to stand there with that foot not where he wants it, and it, like you're saying, BDA, he's probably going to walk him down. Where I see him walking him down is after he's used subtle movements early to where Joshua's tired, not mentally tired, but tired of trying to track him, not knowing where he's going to come from. And then after he's peppered him for a few rounds, then I can see your point of him walking him down.
Yeah, but when I say walking him down, is I don't think he's going to be circling the ring. I think it's going to be a fencing match. That's how I see it. It's not going to be like the Chisora fight where he was circling the ring, because Chisora, the shorter but yet larger heavyweight, was just trying to smother him and trying to beat him up on the inside. Now, to Jimmy's point, let me just say real quick, because I got to take a phone call here from somebody. Jimmy, you said it right on the spot. Usyk is going to have to get him out of Joshua's stance, because I'm going to show you on fight week that when Joshua gets pressed, he gets out of his stance. He tends to lean back a little bit, and he can do that against lower heavyweights like Pulev. But when it comes to a quick guy like Usyk, I don't know if that's going to happen. But before we continue on that, we've got somebody here waiting on the phone line, so let's get to that. 347, you're on the air. 347, what's on your mind?
How are you doing, BDA? What's going on, man?
Oh, it's Asian Sensation. What's up, man?
Oh, man. Too blessed to be stressed and highly favored, man. But anyway, bro, let me say this. Crawford versus Porter, a great fight. I'm glad that it's official. And you know what? I think the purse bid, having the purse bid tonight, I think that really made Bob Arum, really think to himself, man, I just had, Teofimo go to another network. Do I fully want to have another champion go to another network? And Bob Arum, that gave him nightmares. So you know what he did? He made the fight done. You see, these it really woke up Bob. A wake up call. Like, he's not the only network out there. ESPN is not the only network out there. And if you don't put up the money, then they will go to another network. So I think I woke up Bob. This is a great fight. I think Porter being Crawford being very fast, being a great counterpuncher. And Porter, he comes in, his head first, wild big shots. I think Crawford will catch him. I think stylistically, everybody should be favoring Crawford. Crawford is the stylistically favorite. Now, obviously, Crawford, he doesn't have the best defense. But I think Porter needs to keep a tight guard, really come forward, put the pressure, because, Crawford, he doesn't really do good against pressure fighters, I think if Crawford then he'll especially
he's cutting off.
I thought it was me, man. I thought that was me.
Like I said, countering him.
Go ahead, MMA champ.
And AJ Usyk, you already know who I'm doing with. Who I'm going with. Oh, Anthony Joshua, AJ KO, bro.
All right.
Now, listen, Usyk is a bum.
Oh, Usyk is a bum.
All right, bye. Nice talking to you. Bye.
Yeah, he did drop. As soon as he said that, he just dropped out. He goes, yeah, but anyway, listen, Asian Sensation likes to troll. He's 16 years old, I think, so don't take what he says with a grain of salt. But 15, whatever, same shit. I think that at this point, this Usyk-Joshua fight, man, the atmosphere is going to be electric. Fury Wilder, though, it's near, and yet I haven't been feeling the same hype, anywhere near the same hype as the rematch. Now, of course, the rematch, everyone was more hyped up because Wilder was undefeated. He hadn't gotten the shit kicked out of him. He hadn't gone crazy yet. But I would have expected at least something, some sort of buzz. Nobody seems to care about this fight for some reason.
I know, it's weird, right? At least I don't know how they're talking about it in the UK, right? But over here, they're not talking about it at all. Really.
Are you talking about Fury Wilder?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not getting any advertising at all, really. No promotion.
Now,
They
let me
knew
ask
it
you
wasn't
this,
the fight
Jimmy.
everybody wanted.
Let me ask you this, Jimmy.
I wonder if that's
is the
purposely
reason
done, Jimmy. I wonder if that's being purposely done.
That's what I wanted to ask. Is this because I think one of you motherfuckers mentioned this, that since they were pressed on making this fight, they said, all right, you PBC, you take care of everything. You wanted it, you do the advertising. Is that possible?
I think that's exactly what it was. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and then PBC, who's probably not re-signing with Fox, running out of avenues. I'm not saying that they're a broke company, but they're definitely not as high on the food chain as they want to make it out to be. They've got one shot to try and. Is this one going to be through Fox or Showtime?
Fox.
This is their one shot to try and convince Fox to sign with them again off of what they hope is a big fight. If it doesn't work,
No, I think they have to re-sign with them, bro, because this is because the Canelo, because they're doing the Canelo plant fight, and that actually happens past their cutoff date. So if they do carry the Canelo plant fight, that means they had to re-sign for that 4th year. But then again, I heard there's still things going on with that. I heard there's still ticket situations with that, so who knows? I'm just saying, for them to carry that fight in, when is it, November or October? November, I guess.
Right.
So that's they would have to re-sign that 4th year. But even still, everything's going to be pay-per-views, though. And it's all pay-per-views. It's just, listen, ESPN, Bob said it, Bruce Trampler said it. The second fight sold more than the first, right? The first Wilder Fury.
That makes sense.
And that didn't even make money. That barely broke even at 800,000 sells. So imagine how many of this thing's going to have to sell. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Well, you heard Steve Kim say the fact that 1.5 million buys means a lot to the mainstream fans, but it doesn't mean the fight was successful and made money. And we
did it do 1.5?
No. That was a number that Steve Kim said to make the point, the fact that 800,000 doesn't, everyone else thinks that's successful because we're used to the 1.5, 1.4 or so with Mayweather and Pacquiao whenever they'd fight anybody. But his point was 800,000 sounds like it's a successful fight, but even 1.5 doesn't mean that everyone made money. Depends on what your overhead is. What did you pay all your people? What did you pay the fighters out? You got to pay the entire card. You got to pay the officials. You got to pay everybody else on the card. You got to pay the 2 main guys. So when I used 1.5, that was the number that Steve Kim used to make an analogy of that doesn't necessarily mean the fight makes money. And then there's always the fans that out there when you're saying, well, this fight can't happen. These guys want too much money. That one individual whose name I don't mention is always like, well, just put it on pay-per-view. I'm like, pay-per-view doesn't mean the fight's going to actually make money.
You bring up a good point.
And the provider takes half the money. Everybody's got to remember that. Just whatever the number is, instantly cut it in half. Because that's what the provider gets. And that's
You
huge.
make a good point, Chief, because I just did the math, right? So 800,000 pay-per-views times, let's say 75, right?
Right.
Comes out to 60 million. Mm-hmm. And these guys were getting paid, wasn't it like 25 million each? Wasn't something like that?
Roughly.
Yeah. So you make a really good point. Yep.
So you walk away with 10 million, which is a nice day's work, but you've got an entire company to run off of $10 million.
Yeah, this whole people hear that sometimes. I forget who it was. Somebody was fighting on another podcast, and they were essentially arguing about whether fighter A was a superstar or not. And then they go, "Yeah, but he's fighting on pay-per-view," as if to say that he's a big star. And I'm thinking, yeah, just because you're, like Jimmy said, just because you're on pay-per-view doesn't mean you're a big name. Like we said, Crawford fought on pay-per-view against Postal, and that fight was a bust. So yeah, the pay-per-view thing.
What was Stuart Little's favorite line? You could have a $10,000 mic and you still sound like shit.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what they say in the military. You can polish a turd. You can't polish a turd. Unless, maybe unless you freeze it. I don't know. But hey, by the way, speaking of turds, Caleb Plant came out. I mean, this guy. Look, I don't know who to root for.
Speaking of turds, and you mentioned Caleb Plant.
I'm kidding. No, but he's really starting to irk me. And look, when it comes to Canelo, he's the A side, and I tend to root against the A side just because that's how most of us are, right? We root for the underdog. This is an underdog that I can't really get behind. This is what he said recently, Caleb Plant. He said, Canelo's a great fighter, but there's no way that he's better than me. So now he's saying he's not impressed with Canelo. And this is what he said. He said, I mean, he's a great fighter. He's been around for a long time and he's accomplished a lot. But within his first 30 fights, I was probably fighting better competition than he was in the amateurs. I'm a Golden Gloves national champion. I'm an Olympic alternate. But I know he's got experience on me. But everybody that I've fought had more fights than me. So experience is a factor, but it's not a determining factor. And I'm thinking, okay, people need to get it to their heads. Because they were saying the same thing about Rigondeaux and Lomachenko. Well, yeah, but those guys had hundreds of fights in the amateurs, so it's okay that they had, within the first 10 fights, they had a championship fight in the professional ranks. I'm thinking, whether you had 1,000 fights in the amateurs or not, it's nowhere near what the professional ranks are like. A 12-rounder will test your stamina like nothing else you've ever seen. So for these guys to say, well, I fought a whole bunch of great amateurs, yeah, that's for 3 rounds each. That's 3 rounds
I'm going to sound like a hypocrite on this one. But then again, you guys know how I feel about Canelo, but I'm liking everything he's saying so far. I think he's going to get his ass killed no matter what. But I like that he's trying to irk Canelo. I even heard Canelo say, if he keeps it up, this fight ain't happening or something like that, right? So I like it personally. Look, I know I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because I don't like Caleb Plant and all the shit he's saying is stupid. But because it's against Canelo, I have to admit I'm enjoying it.
So the amateur career point of view is a double-edged sword. We talk about it because Lomachenko and Rigondeaux are exceptional pro fighters for what they've done with their extensive amateur career. We don't give Kavaluskas that much credit, even though he's a 2-time Olympian. And then you stop and look at perfect example is Mark Breland. Probably other than going to a second Olympics, he was probably the single most decorated amateur period of anything ever, as well as Antonio Tarver, both of them. And then what did they turn into in the pros?
Exactly.
So there's a level of experience when it benefits you, but that doesn't make you anything special. When people talk about Pernell Whitaker being a great fighter, they always start off with the gold medalist. I'm like, that launched him into the pros at a faster level, but that's nothing to do with credentials to being in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. A gold medal shouldn't get you in there.
My problem with what you said, BDA, with Caleb Plant's approach is I think he should be more honest, because if that's the way he carries himself, which seems to be a little delusional, what happens if you lose, if you get blown out of there? Your credibility is gone because you spoke a big game and you got exposed. But if you're a little bit more honest with yourself and you at least give the other guy more credit and you tell yourself, I'm going to go in there for the win, but we don't know what's really going to happen. I'm just going to try, as opposed to saying, I'm just way better. I don't think he can beat me, but then he fucking knocks you out. Then your credibility is gone in the future because you seem fake.
I think he doesn't even care about his credibility, to be honest with you, dude. I think he's going to take the money and run, honestly. I don't think you probably would see him after. Listen, he's trying to convince himself. The shit he's saying, he's trying to convince him. I mean, not only is he saying stupid shit about, not only is he saying dumb stuff about Canelo, he's also, he kind of denigrated Mexican people. He made a comment I guess a lot of Mexicans took offense to, but he's always going after fans. People, what have you accomplished?
What he say about Mexicans?
I don't know. It was written, I guess, Mexican people sitting. That's how they took it. Some Mexicans on Twitter, because they kind of went at him for it, because he said just sitting at home drinking something. I guess it's a real popular drink in Mexico. So people said, "Oh, you're just going at him for that road." But I'm just saying. But what he does do, he does attack fans. Like LB tweeted something. He's like, "Well, what do you expect from these people? I don't listen to anyone with no boxing experience." He puts it all in capital letters. Like, these people have no idea what they're talking about. They'll bring it to they've never accomplished anything, and they're just living off our accomplishments. Oh, the kid's a fucking clown. He sounds like a scared dude who knows he doesn't have no business being in there. Canelo's gonna fold that clown like a lawn chair.
To me, he looks like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber with the beard.
That's
okay, you know what? I want to say something about this. First of all, Gonzalo, I completely agree with you. I don't know what you said. You said you disagree with me. I agree with you. Caleb Plant, like Recognize said, he's trying to sell the fight and he's trying to get under Canelo's skin to try to make him commit a mistake in the ring. I suspect that's usually what guys try to do. So I kind of like the fact that he's trying to sell the fight. But I agree completely with what you said, though, Gonzalo. That the fact that he's talking this big game, and he's not even that dangerous a guy. It's not like Canelo hasn't ever seen this type of style before. That's why I'm interested. I agree with Jimmy too. I think Kelly plans talking this big game because he's looking to cash out on this fight.
The only thing that I think he's a little better than Billy Joe Saunders, I think she's got better legs. Well, they're kind of even, but in the sense that I think he's just naturally more like a 68-pounder. Billy Joe Saunders was more like a 60-pounder who was a little chubby at 68. Yeah. At 68, I think Kelly Plant is a little bit more fit, and his legs are a little bit like better conditioned. He's pretty dexterous, and he's got pretty quick legs.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think Kelly Plant has better feet movement, but there's something Billy Joe Saunders has that Plant doesn't have, and that's a very good jab. It's not a Golovkin type jab in terms of power, but it was a stiff jab. And I remember before the fight we're breaking it down, and I said that one of the big punches that he was going to have there to try to win the fight was the jab, and he actually got through with it more than a lot of Canelo's past opponents. But he just didn't. Once he got hit, his eye socket caved in. He said that's enough. Caleb Plant has no real jab. It's mostly combinations. He's got a good up jab, but you know what I'm saying. It's not a stiff jab, so I don't really, unless Canelo shows up with a bum knee or out of shape or something, I don't see Plant comprehensively outboxing him, which is what he would have to do to get a draw, let alone a win. So yeah, this whole talking. Oh, and get this. This is what he said. I'm going to give you another example of what he said. He said, "Don't be surprised if I beat Canelo Alvarez easier than you think." I mean, I think he's arrogant. I think he really believes this. I don't know if if in his mind he's just bullshitting. I think deep down inside he might believe this.
Well, there's someone that I've met through Discord who was hit me up through the chat and was saying, he wants to see the best fight the best, and look at Canelo against Billy Joe Saunders. He wasn't looking that good until he broke the eye socket. So, if you take the eye socket away, he was struggling in that fight. To me, that's like saying, if Tyson didn't land that right hand against Franz Botha that knocked him out, what would have happened? We don't know because it did happen. We don't know because the eye socket did break. And why did it break? Oh, Canelo's fists. That's right. How could I forget that? It's not like he picked a stool and walked in there and took a hammer to his head. His fists broke his eye socket. Tyson's right hand knocked out Botha. That's what happened. And if you try to rearrange that, you're rearranging a fight that literally did happen with a make-believe.
Well, I understand what the person I'm not saying that this is what the person was trying to say, but because I've used that as a similar thing, but not at all the same point that this guy's trying to make. When I criticize a fighter for losing rounds and then he scores a knockout, I'm not criticizing him for the knockout. What I'm criticizing is the fact for his flaws that he showed before the knockout. But in this Canelo Billy Joe Saunders thing, it's not even the same thing because he was winning the fight. Yeah, there was a point where he seemed to start slowing down a little bit, Canelo, and Billy Joe Saunders seemed to get into a bit of a rhythm. But then before
it was ineffective, right? It wasn't like something that Canelo might be in some trouble here.
Exactly, it wasn't.
It was nothing like that. It was like, okay, you're touching me a little bit now. The way I could end that is that I'll just ignore your power and hit you with a big shot, right? And that's what ended up happening.
Mm-hmm. It's like what Boo Boo would have done to a prime Golovkin. He would have made him look bad. He wouldn't have beaten him.
A Beevil?
Who? Who's that?
Andrade.
Oh, Andrade. I thought you said Beevil.
I said Boo Boo because that's his nickname. Andrade against the prime Golovkin would have made him look bad, but he wouldn't have beaten him. That's just my opinion.
He would have got knocked out. That's what would have happened.
It's just my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that think that I don't know boxing, but
no. I mean, listen, nobody knows how it plays out, but that dude is soft. I don't think he goes 12 rounds with him.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it goes 12 rounds.
You know what? To bring it full circle, this whole Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford thing. Canelo Alvarez, say what you want about the guy. He's at worst the number 2 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, based on what he's done in the ring. Crawford, he may have what it takes to be a pound-for-pounder, but he's not the number 1 pound-for-pound guy because he hasn't beaten the type of a position required to be number 1 pound-for-pound. Shawn Porter's a good start, but then again, he still has to beat the guy. And we don't I'm expecting him to beat him better than anyone has ever had or ever has, but I don't have a crystal ball. anything could happen. And the other thing I forgot to say, Shawn Porter, perhaps one of the best conditioned fighters in the world. Whenever you're fighting a guy who's that well conditioned, it's never going to be easy. So,
yeah, that's what I said. BDA, I know you remember this. The lead up to the Spence Porter fight, there was some people calling in, and we know one of them that he doesn't call in no more. Shout out to the sisterhood. They were like, yo, he's gonna knock Porter the fuck out. And remember what a few of us said the same thing. Remember I said, dude, I would be highly impressed if he does. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he can knock out Porter, in other words, I was saying, that's not gonna happen. I don't think he's gonna knock Porter out. I think that fight's gonna be razor close. It's gonna be a really good fight, and you can make the case that Porter won more rounds than him. You know what I'm saying? You can make that case.
We had that talk the other night. We agreed on that.
A couple of swing rounds could have went the other way. Okay, and as a matter of fact, one judge agrees with that statement. They had it 8-4 in favor of Porter, but then of course they took the extra point, so it's a 3-point win. My point is that fight was razor close. So they were very adamant. BDA, you remember that he's gonna knock Shawn Porter the fuck out, and we were like, yeah, that'll be impressive if he could. We don't think so.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember.
Hey, did you I sent a link of what one of Caleb, I guess Heyman must be listening to the stream because he DM'd me a copy of his interaction with Plant. Plant was talking about fans, shitting on fans about chasing his dreams. Yeah, no, he's very good about going after fans on Twitter, like saying some stupid ass shit. But then again, when you only talk like that when you know your foundation's built on marshmallows. He knows it's not solid. Steel sharpens steel, bros. And what the fuck has he fought? Come on.
Yeah, well, Caleb Plant said.
You know what I mean?
Caleb Plant said in the tweet, they're mad because they never had the nuts to chase down their own dream. They could never step between those ropes. And then Heymanite said, Ellerby's all up in his feelings over the realization that tweeting Gervonta Davis to pay-per-view status isn't going as well as Heyman's plan to make boxing free. Oh, is going as well as Heyman's plan to make boxing free. In other words, not good at all. A fringe champion in a niche sport is denigrating what little fans it has left. Great job, Punchy. Yeah, I mean, see, that's what I really dislike. I mean, when it came down to the Rigondeaux fight against Casimero, if you could even call that a fight, and people were like, oh, well, it's up to Casimero to chase him. That's like, nah, listen. We boxing fans, we're not millionaires. At least I don't think any of you guys are. I'm certainly not. We're paying for the Zone. We're paying for ESPN Plus. We're paying for pay-per-views, Showtime. So when a fighter makes it on one of those platforms and we're paying for it, you gosh darn right I want to see these guys give it an honest effort. We are, just because look, they're not firefighters. Okay, they're not saving lives. Nobody put a gun to their heads, to these boxers' heads, say, hey, listen, you got to fight. Yes, it takes balls. But once you're in that ring, you can also turn into a coward just because you step in between those. And by the way, even if we haven't been in the ring, I think, first of all, I think Jimmy's been in the ring. He's sparred. I don't know if, Jimmy, were you a amateur boxer or?
Yeah, I didn't take it out because it kind of went against. It wasn't my favorite sport. I was actually good at it, but because of ice hockey and wrestling and other shit going on, and it was just again the sores. But yes, I did fight in the amateurs for a while.
Oh, okay, you did. Okay,
I just stopped before we. Yes, I stopped before I went to the gloves. I knew who I would have had to fight. Just long story short, I would have lost. Joey Elliott was in my weight class. He won the Golden Gloves Nationals 7 years in a row.
Just for the record,
pro the douchebag. But
just for the record, most people here at minimum have sparred, and they've boxed, quite. Even if they hadn't, that means we can't criticize fighters at all. I understand. I'm not one of those guys that a guy has a bad performance and I call him a bomb, trash, whatever. But we have to have standards. And fighters like Caleb Plant and promoters, managers like Leonard Ellerby, when they go, well, you can't criticize a fighter because you better believe we can. It's just that you're putting out a trash product.
We can't, dude. Without you. Yeah. Listen, fuck him, dude, Ellerby, and that type of talk, dude. Boxing exists for one purpose, and that's to entertain the people who's without their money, the fight in sport wouldn't exist. So anybody who says that, listen, this is our sport. It's the people like you who put on, fucking make podcasts and people paying tickets and buying pay-per-views, for them to turn around and act like our opinion doesn't matter to them, well, go fuck you. Who's buying you a gold watch, douchebag? You're not getting a fucking quarterly earnings report. You're fighting only because people are interested in enough to pay money. But if you fucking don't do it right, then you just won't. Listen, this sport is hanging by its thread right now. People don't realize it wouldn't take much to just a couple of Showtime stop carrying boxing. What are we gonna do? ESPN walks away from it. And these fighters constantly demanding tons of money. It's not just the fighters, the promoters too are at fault with this, placating to this bullshit. After a while, people are just gonna say, I'm not losing money anymore. And or barely breaking even. Everybody's in this game for one thing, to turn a profit. And these fights aren't turning profits. And I'm just seriously worried for the life of the sport. That's my rant on that.
Listen, it's like you said, we have a right to criticize because we're paying for it. It's not like we're a bunch of bloodhounds. Hey, slug it out, yeah. And these guys are doing it for free. Trust me, the people on TV, the fight on TV, they're getting well compensated. Tell that to all the other guys out there who wish they were on television. All these other boxers fighting in small venues that are events that aren't being recorded or televised. And they're getting paid peanuts for actually trying to put on the show. Those are the guys that should be on TV. Rigondeaux should never be on television. Right, Rigondeaux should never be on television ever again.
Of course not. Rigondeaux, the guy quit. The guy quit in 2 fights. Like, the guy literally just quit, man. He just quit like outright in one and just ran. This guy.
Excellent point.
Yeah. So this guy.
He should have never got a second chance after quitting.
After quitting, I would agree. Yeah.
Rigondeaux is a special case because before the Lomachenko fight, remember the narrative was that Lomachenko was dodging him, right? And then when they asked Rigondeaux one day, I forget which video it was, but they asked him about Lomachenko, and he rolled his eyes. Because I think they were saying, like, hey, people are saying that he's one of the best, blah, blah. And he actually rolled his eyes very arrogantly. He quits in that fight. And you never hear from him about what happened. I think he said the hand, right? He said the hand or something. I think he motioned to the hand, like, oh, but he didn't even try that fight.
He said his hand, his hand was broken.
He didn't even.
He quit.
He quit. And, exactly. And to have the arrogance.
Straight up quit. And the thing is, and his fans to say it was size. And when people try to put it, well, what do you expect? A size differential? Hold the phone, motherfucker. How he beat him wasn't even dependent on his size. He beat him with his skill, his footwork, his angles, his just all. And I think Lomachenko purposely did that. The only time the size came an issue when he tried to tie him up and Loma just like violently pulled away. Yeah. And everybody's gonna remember this too. There was more of a size disparity between Mickey Garcia and Spence than it was between Lomachenko and Rigondeaux.
What do you think that scared Rigo? That when, like you said, the only time size became a difference is when he tried to hold Lomachenko and he violently, got him off of him. Why do you think that scared him? Because he's like, damn, now I can't even hold him.
You know what's funny about Rigo's very last performance? The whole theory about the legs being gone. The legs look better than ever, man.
Up, recognize, unless it's just me.
Yeah, the legs look better than ever on Rigondeaux this last one. So that theory about the legs being gone, he looked great.
Because he ran so perfectly in that fight.
But you know what? It's not just that. It's because I was saying before the Lomachenko fight, he was acting very arrogantly, and then during the fight, he complains about the hand and pulls out of it and never showed any proof or anything about the hand. And then after the Casimero fight, he still has the arrogance after barely throwing double digits in every round. He has the arrogance afterward to say, "Well, Casimero said he was gonna knock me out, and look at me. I'm fresh as a pixie, clean as a pixie." I'm thinking, you're bragging about that? You're
bragging about that you ran to not get knocked out?
I mean, I'm done with the guy.
What world do we live in? Aren't you like 50? You should be from my school. You should be from my era. That will get you laughed at, smacked in the face every time people see you. And be like, a matter of fact, when it comes to fighting, we tell you to get out the room. Like, you're a pussy. Get the fuck out. You're not allowed to have this conversation with men.
Exactly. And the fact that it's not the first time he's put on this type of crap performance is what made me say, you know what? Enough of this guy. If you still think he's entertaining, I mean, there was maybe 2 or 3 people that I heard defending him. Other than that, even the people that usually defend this type of performances, they said enough as well. They had it with the guy. Speaking of having guys, I wanted to just bring up the fact that we did not cover the Valdez Conceição fight, and I do not intend to. Have not watched the fight. Do not intend to watch it.
I saw it, BDA. I know you're disappointed in me, but I did see the fight.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. So disappointed that I'm no longer.
Can I just give you my? Can I give you my quick opinion?
Well, actually, let me just finish saying this. I didn't.
Right,
I'm probably gonna have to watch it down the line for the next Valdez fight, right? Because we're gonna have to break it down and all that. But listen, if you watch that fight live and you were supporting it, guys, you got to take a stand at some point. Some people could say, yeah, but it's what difference does it make whether you BDA watches or not? Well, it's because, first of all, it's a down payment of me being able to sleep at night, and that I am not a boxing slut, and that I will take it up the ass all the time. I've taken it up the ass enough from boxing. Let me just say that. At some point, you got to say, well, if they keep the fight on, despite the fact that this guy tested positive and the WBC and Top Rank, they just go along with it as if nothing happened. You got to take a stand, fellas. That's all I'm saying. And whether you think it has a big effect or not, that's not the point. It's one of those principle things. But at some point, you got to do
PDA,
something.
We got to be a little fair, man. A lot of guys have tested positive, and we've watched their fights. You know, look, I agree.
No, but I'm saying recognize. It's yes, they've tested positive for one fight. They get suspended, and then they fight in the next day. Well, yeah, but I'm thinking this was a special case because he tested positive, and they said, "Fuck, we still doing the fight."
This was a little strange. When you say that, like, it was fucking strange. But I will say this. Conceição, I think that's how you say it, right? BDA? I know you Conceição. Okay, that makes more sense. Conceição, okay. Because I'm pronouncing it, like, by the letter, right?
Yeah,
like, every fucking... But it's Conceição. Okay, I thought he won. Thought that Conceição won. Thought he won that fight, like, probably 8-4, you know. Now, here's what I will say. Are we sure that guy's not on something? Because, goddamn, he was huge compared to... I don't know, maybe sometimes the way a guy's shape can be misleading, but it looked like he was way bigger than Valdez. I'll just say that.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of those guys are. You know my theory. 90% of the top fighters in the world, they got to be on something.
But the fight was boring. But I wouldn't say boring. It was just not. It's not worth watching. Like repeating and watching again. It was decent, but I wouldn't say it was like a great fight to watch. But yeah, that Conceição, Jose Canseco, that guy, he won that fight.
I'll tell you what, man. Gonzalo, you want to say something about it?
Oh yeah, he's pretty good. He's an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, he got dropped hard by Louis Correa, but he's a pretty good fighter. He's long and lanky. It was a pretty hard fight to like score, depending on what you're watching. I know that sounds a little controversial. Yeah, but it wasn't entertaining. It was kind of like how Canelo fought against Kovalev, but way worse.
Way worse.
You know what, man? Yeah, this was just an overall embarrassment for boxing, and I normally don't say that. I'm not I don't exaggerate things. I'm not hyperbolic, but this was usually people talk about a bad decision. It's a black mark on boxing. This was worse than that because they ignored the test. They gave the guy a pass. Yeah, like nothing happened, and then on top of that, the guy looks bad. And from what people are telling me, most people are saying that he should have lost the fight. I know Gonzalo says that the fight was close and that Conceição actually sort of gave it away later on. So I can understand that. But
one thing that BDA that I don't agree with what later came out, and maybe I have to rewatch it again. That Oscar Valdez said he was running, but if you look at his face, he got fucking. I know he tends to bruise easily, but he got lit up. So that means that Robson Conceição wasn't running all the time. Yeah, he was running when he thought he had the round in the bag, and it could appear that he gave it up because he got a little overconfident thinking he had it in the bag. Then he didn't work for the whole 3 minutes. But yeah, he didn't entirely run because if you look at Oscar Valdez's face, he got lit up.
Well, I can't comment. I can't comment too much on it or at all because I didn't see it. So I don't know if he actually ran. Because for some people, moving is running, but running should really be.
He landed more punches from just watching, just looking at it. Forget about the punch test. When I'm just looking at it, the eye test. Actually watching the fight, he's landing more punches than Valdez, in my opinion. But right. the rounds were close, if that makes sense, right? He's landing more punches than him, just about in every round. But the fights, the rounds itself were actually close rounds.
Yeah, I get that. Like, for example, Morales-Pacquiao. Pacquiao was competitive, but fucking Morales was always one step ahead when it came to clean punching, and that's why throughout the fight they were competitive. But I thought Morales clearly won that fight. So you can have those fights.
The rounds were close, right? They were close.
Competitive,
close rounds. Yeah,
it's not like
the guy's
Morales
fighting back. He's fighting back.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you what though, that to me was a black eye on boxing. This whole Valdez testing positive and the fight still going forward. The one that people are saying was
and BDA. And a lot of guys didn't like Canelo Alvarez's stablemate supporting him and cheering him on in the ringside. A lot of people thought that looked bad too.
Well, I mean, I don't understand why that would be. Maybe it's because there's a lot of people that dislike Canelo out there, and just the association makes them angry. But listen, be that as it may, some people were saying that the real black eye for boxing this past week was the whole Vitor Belfort versus Holyfield fight. First of all, let me tell you something. And I was trying to, because we were watching the fight on Discord, allegedly. We like Steve Kim says, we were listening to it on the radio. Listen, I mentioned something there. Holyfield was considered a shot all the way back to 2004 when he lost every round to Larry Donald. Or what was the guy's name? Donald, I forget.
Yeah, Larry. I think it was. I forget his name. BDA.
Yeah,
that's how long it is. He was washed up then.
17 years he's been washed up. But let me tell you, that fight against Belfort, you saw what washed up is. The guy could barely. He looked like a tin can man. The rust was all over his bones, his ligaments. He could barely move. I'll tell you what though, and I said this when we were watching the fight. He started backing Belfort up just with his stance. And I said, holy shit, he's going to try to back the younger man up. Relatively younger man. And then Belfort just opened up on him, and you saw what happens with a 50-year-old man. The reflexes were shot. He couldn't even see the punches. He just covered up like a turtle and looked down, and he didn't even get hurt. He was just shocked by the speed and would go down.
BDA, let me say something to you. Look, I consider myself growing up an athlete, right? I consider myself an athlete because I played a lot of sports. I was always into working out and playing sports my whole life, pretty much. Not my whole life, but from teenagehood all the way into probably 40. Right, consistently, always here and there playing sports whenever I had the chance to do it, whether it was boxing, basketball, baseball, football, whatever the fuck it was. I'm 48 years old now. I didn't make money off of it like these people. I noticed the difference between me today versus me, let's say from anywhere from 18 to 30 or 35 even, right? You could even go, it's a huge difference. Am I in good shape for a guy who's 48 years old? Probably I am. Okay. But that's as far as it goes. I'm in good shape for a guy who's 48. This motherfucker's 58.
58.
Going to 58
Exactly.
years old. Who's going against it? I think his birthday's next month. He's going to be 59. So technically, he's 59, right? He's born 1962. We're in 2021. He's a 59-year-old man, basically a 60-year-old man.
It was disgusting. And listen, Shawn should be sued too for that.
Jimmy, one punch, Jimmy, and it was over.
Well,
Fucking clean punch.
They lied about a lot of things, They said that was supposed to be a real fight. That was supposed to go on their records. That was scheduled, supposed to be sanctioned. But funny thing, after the fight, Triller comes out. Dan Raphael tweeted about it, called them liars. Then they turned around and said, wait a minute, no, this was only an exhibition. Wait a minute, that's a big difference. Why were you telling fucking fans it was legit? That means if it's an exhibition, that means it's like WWE, complete sports entertainment. It means you can have legally scripted. You go down now. This is so like when you call it an exhibition, they can't be sued for any kind of shenanigans. Who knows? He may have went in there just enough to cash the check. It doesn't look like he was hurt. Can I just say how much? Listen, if you wanted to fight another combat athlete who took as much steroids in his lifetime as Evander Holyfield, that would probably be Belfort.
Oh yeah,
notorious. You said notorious.
Yeah,
I didn't even know he was that young. 44, because he was like a champion when he was 19 in the UFC. Back in the
20 years old. Yep, youngest fucking 1999. He came on 20 years old, and he was fast as lightning.
I think De La Hoya is
juiced
48.
out of his tits.
He probably would have beat De La Hoya, man, because he's fucking big and he's got good hands.
He was brought up on charges back in Brazil. I think was where he's from for steroids, with dealing like large quantities, like tens of thousands of vials.
Yeah, but
involved in that. Yeah, no, he was
somebody mentioned
notorious juice head.
The way he was celebrating, like he beat up Prime Holyfield.
Scars around his nipples.
The way he was celebrating, like he
faded by now, but yeah, big juice.
A 58-year-old man.
I don't think Jimmy could hear us.
That's all right.
Go ahead,
no, I'm saying I don't think Jimmy could hear us. I have a feeling he don't.
Anyway, listen, Gonzalo. Yeah, you were saying that the way he was celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way he was celebrating, like. His daughters got up on the ring. They were jubilant. His wife, he spoke like he had done something great. This Beetle Belfort guy by beating a 58, 59-year-old guy. That's kind of crazy too.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen. I don't think Holyfield threw the fight because he's been after Tyson for a while now. He's been after that rubber match, even though he beat him the first 2 times. But he wants the money. You got to remember, Holyfield has, I think he's got like 20 kids or something. Something incredible like that, and that's a lot of alimony. That's a lot of child support. This motherfucker needs the money. He wanted the Tyson fight. If he loses the way he lost this, way, it just completely disintegrates any hope for that fight, and nobody's gonna get interested.
Holyfield's had money problems since the '90s between taxes, bankruptcies, all kinds of things. He invested in dealerships that turned up ugly. Yeah, he's always had fucking money issues, dude, one way or another. So, yeah, of course it was. And you guys are right. The way he celebrated knocking out a fucking dude 6 years away from Social Security checks was disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder. I mean, maybe it's listen, there's a reason why they used to call him TRT Belfort, TRT Vitor, because he was on that shit. And he looked almost like he was done for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden he's on the TRT. He's knocking out guys like Bisping. He's knocking out people out with backhanded. What do they call this? Backhand. The pivoting kick. That like Chuck Norris kick, roundhouse kicking people.
Roundhouse.
Spinning kicks. He also
spinning kick and a spinning back fist. He was good with those too.
And then he knocked out Luke Rockhold, the top guy, with that spinning kick. And you're thinking, what the fuck? Where's this guy? Then all of a sudden they take him off the TRT. He's back to being normal again. Now I think he's back on the TRT, and he's acting like Gonzalo said. He's celebrating as if he won a championship. In reality, he beat up a fucking old man. He was, what this reminded me of? Reminded me of that video of that black dude who was working in an old folks home, and he was beating up on an Alzheimer patient. This is the same thing. It's almost the same thing. I'm not being hyperbolic here. I know what I'm talking about. It was disgusting. And now I'm hoping. Now I don't know if you guys saw this, but there's professional fighters out there that are saying. Ex-boxers are saying, okay, you beat up on Holyfield, let's see if you can do it to me. I know Steve Cunningham said something along those lines, and there was another boxer that said, what the fuck you celebrating beating up on an old man for? So I'm hoping he gets in there with a real boxer, maybe like a guy like Steve Cunningham, David Hay. Put him in there against David Hay, see what happens.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not like you said, BDA. Everybody knows this. It's not like he got beat up either. The referee just stepped in and called it off. Because he was getting overwhelmed.
Yeah, exactly.
By punches that weren't really hitting cleanly.
Exactly. It was just shock. You see this in the amateurs too, with fighters that aren't used to being hit with all-out attacks. And that's what happened with Holyfield. He froze. He couldn't see the punches coming. He just hunkered down, and he was getting touch and tumbling down to the canvas, and the ref said, "All right, he ain't making it out of here. Let me just stop it now." But yeah, Belfort's what's his name, celebration, and now, but I'm surprised about the amount of hype that this fight got, well, of coverage after the fight, because I used Bing as a search engine, and when I went on there, that was one of the top stories. Holyfield loses. I was saying, okay, CNN front page of their website, it was there in the sports section. I'm thinking, well, why they cover? Is it just because they wanted the headline of old man getting beat up and how it's bad for the sport, or is it because Holyfield still has some juice? I didn't know he had this much juice left in the media. What do you guys think?
I think Holyfield has a lot of juice left. If you
Oh, come on, wait.
It's just one of those guys. It's one of those things that the guy, he was a tough guy. I don't think he ever got knocked out as a heavyweight, as a boxer.
Yeah, he
so
did.
it's
Holyfield
like
did,
the
yeah.
aura of Holyfield. I think he got stopped once by Riddick Bowe, but anyways,
James
the aura
Toney
of this
stopped
guy
him.
being like a
And
tough
James
guy.
Toney. And James Toney. Remember that, Gonzalo? That beating
Okay.
James Toney gave him?
Yeah, that's like later on in life. Yeah, but what I mean, like a prime guy. So, but anyways, yeah, he had this aura of being like a tough guy, a badass dude. So maybe that's what the public are, they're noticing that, and that's where he's getting a little bit of where they're talking down on him, or I mean, it kind of tarnishes his it doesn't tarnish his legacy, but it does put a little bit of a stain on his reputation.
Yeah,
Even
that's
for
true.
an old guy. Even for an old guy.
Well, actually, I don't think it stains his reputation in the sense that and nobody's going to go, well, Holyfield's not an all-time great because he lost at 58 years old in an exhibition fight. You know what I mean? But I will say this.
For the casuals, no, it kind of like doesn't look good.
Well, the casuals, I mean, they don't even know what the fuck they're looking at. But I get your point. Yeah, maybe they would look at and they go, oh, he lost to Peter Belfort. Like, they wouldn't understand. Black Lomachenko says, throw him in there with fellow TRT abuser Brock Lesnar. Somebody else mentioned Tyson. Yeah, Tyson versus Belfort. That would be a good fight because Tyson definitely has a little something more left. At least he's still explosive, and he actually went for it against Roy Jones and all that. So that would be an interesting fight. Now the thing with Triller is Jake Paul wants not the Paul brothers. I don't think they want anything to do with Triller. In fact, I think they offered him $30 million, and Jake Paul said he's skeptical about that offer. So Triller. Let's see how long they last. There were a lot of people bad-mouthing them in the media now because of this last fight. Some people are saying...
Plus, Jake Paul's in the contract with Showtime. They signed him for, 3 fights, was it? 2 or 3, anyways. At least 2.
Yeah.
So he owes Showtime. He's under contract. So that $30 million offer was ridiculous because he's not going to jump over to there.
Hey, Jimmy, I know that Jake Paul doesn't want to fight, or the Paul brothers, whatever. They don't like to fight boxers, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, one of them did, right? Anyway, so... But the last one, he hasn't fought a boxer. Now, keep that trend. Keep the trend. What about him and Vitor? What about him?
Well, I guess it's
What about Belfort? What about Belfort?
Well, I guess it's Tommy
Anderson
Fury.
Silva? That Anderson Silva is funny because he's 48 and he looked good. He got the guy that beat Chavez. I don't care. A lot of people say Chavez is a bum, but still, that was a professional boxer, way younger than Silva. Silva knocked out Ortiz. That might have been the case of a glass chin, a guy that doesn't know how to box at all. But
Gonzalo, was that a professional fight? Him,
No.
Silva and
no,
Chavez?
it was
Chavez,
exhibition.
I think so. I think that Silva Chavez was.
No, it was an exhibition. The whole card was an exhibition. They lied. Okay. No, you're right. They first said it was supposed to be sanctioned, and then after the fight, they said, oh, no, this wasn't sanctioned, it was exhibition, meaning they could have done whatever they wanted. So, no, and I guess, to be honest with you, so what they're saying is Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. That's what they're trying to do.
That's going to stink. That is going to stink. This Tommy Fury guy, I thought he'd actually, because he'd grown up in a boxing family, I thought he had boxing experience. Turns out he doesn't. That's why he used it as an excuse.
Boring as fucking all outdoors.
He used it as an excuse when he fought that dude there. He goes, well, you have to remember that I don't have a lot of experience, amateur experience. Like, I thought at least he had that. He's, like you said, Jimmy, horrible. Straight G Turo says Chavez Jr. is finished. I mean, yeah, listen, it is what it is. Listen, I think we're going to be back on Friday for an open panel, see what's going on, let you guys come on talk a little drama. But it's just this past couple of weeks, there wasn't that much going on. But we are going to be back now that not this Saturday, the next, we got Usyk Joshua. And then 2 weeks later, we got Wilder Fury 3. And then we've got, hey, look, nice little announcement. This Porter versus Crawford fight. I thought there weren't going to be any more big fights this year. There's still, and hey, we might still get some surprises before the end of the year. There's still fights that can be signed on for December right now. So hopefully they make something big happen before the end of the year. Other than that, fellas, I think we're going to call it an episode. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Want to give a shout out to Chief, Recognize, Jemay, Gonzalo. Shout out to you, fellas. King Bucho, of course. Hey, by the way, Recognize, are you going to go on the air tonight or? Recognize. I think he's telling me to fuck off. That's his
Hey,
answer.
BDA.
Yes.
Are you related to Sergeant Medina by any chance?
Sergeant Medina? No, I don't think so. I don't know anybody.
He used to be with me in the army because every time people would be hanging out and somebody would say something, he would go, "Oh, like you, oh." Just the same every time he say that. It's like, man, he sounds like Sergeant Medina.
No, I don't know any Sergeant Medina. So I tell you what, my uncle was in Vietnam. He always told us about how he killed people in Vietnam. He's like, yeah, I killed people in Vietnam. Then when he passed away, 10 years later, I'm talking with my aunt. And I go, man, I'd like to, if you have some of my uncle's, Vietnam things, maybe his uniform or something. She goes, well, what are you talking about? I goes, well, he's always talking about how he killed people in Vietnam. Turns out that motherfucker went to Vietnam once. It was in the 90s, and he was never in the army. He was Mexican. So who the fuck did he kill in Vietnam? That's why, like, what the fuck is he talking about? Anyway, it was a long story, but it just reminded me of that when people pretend to be in the military. Anyway.
A prostitute in Saigon.
Oh, man. Yeah. Good old Uncle Hector, man. Killing people in Vietnam in the 90s. Yeah, so anyway, I'll try to see. Guys, stay tuned. Maybe Recognize goes on the air tonight. And if he does, I suggest you tune in. It's an open panel, StreamYard.
I am, just to reiterate on that, I am having a show tonight.
Fantastic. Please don't tell me it's going to be at 1 a.m.
No, it's going to be like somewhere around 12:59.
Fucking asshole. You're a fucking asshole, man. No, but seriously, what the...
It's a minute before 1 o'clock.
I'm kidding around.
Yeah, I was surprised when you called. I was like, I thought you gave the show up. I was like, wow, man. I think BDA's finally had enough of us.
No. First of all, I've never had enough of you, because if I did, I wouldn't be doing the, when we do Second Renaissance and the suicide streams. I mean, I still want to talk to you guys, of course, but it's just boxing. I got to tell you, this past 2 weeks, my interest was a little low, and then the whole Valdez thing, I just said, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to make videos.
Sour taste in your, huh?
I never thought it would happen. Now I understand why guys like Precise and Stu and, they go like, screw boxing. I'm going to take a little bit of hiatus, because it does. I have a high threshold for tolerance for the BS that comes in boxing, but this past 2 weeks, it was, oof. I was at my limit, man. But like I said, yeah.
I like to laugh at boxing now. It's weird. I wasn't like that when I was younger. I loved it too much.
Yeah, now all you got to do is laugh at it. Find the humor in it, make fun of it a little bit, and try to enjoy as much of it as you can. Because Usyk Joshua, I'm looking forward to it, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, for the past 2 weeks, Recognize. What time do you expect? Give us a.
I think no late. I'm trying to do it earlier. Of course, the reason why I start kind of late, because I want to be alone. I don't want to be where, my kids are running around everywhere. So I'll do it probably around 12 midnight, East Coast time. East Coast
time, right? I mean, do it at whatever time you're more comfortable at. Don't let me dictate your fight. It's your show, man. You do what you got to do.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
I got to check in with BDA, because I work full time on the BDA show, so he gives me leeway to do part-time shows. Thank you, BDA.
Recognize obviously being facetious. You guys can do whatever the heck you want, man. And then the Recognize show, that's what I call it, the Recognize show. It's one of the most entertaining things around, man. I'll tell you that much. It's open panel. That's what I'm trying to recreate now with the Open Fridays. Open panel Fridays.
I haven't given nobody a wrench yet, but if I do, I got somebody in mind. Somebody's going to be scary.
Oh boy! Well, listen, hey, we can only imagine. But yeah, try to tune in on Recognize this show. It's fantastic, man. Very fun. Last time I was there, we were having a blast, and so I suggest you check it out. Just write Recognize the Matrix, you'll find his channel. And you never know when special guests, like the other day they had I mean, you never know if 100% X is going to drop by. Don Francisco from the Cuba drops by sometimes. I mean, it's
That's
just
right.
it's fantastic,
I
let me tell you.
think X has been texting me, but it's a number that I don't know. And he's like, it goes, you know who this is. Get back at me, but doesn't leave. Like I call back the number, it doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know what's going on.
He's on a burner phone, probably. He doesn't want to be tracked. Anyway, listen, fellas, don't forget to check out I want people to check out the Devin Haney video that I did. Very few people have checked it out. I think it's a fantastic breakdown of his jab and how that jab is going to give a lot of guys at 135, especially Teofimo Lopez, problems because it's a hard jab, it's a quick jab. So check that one out. We also dropped a Usyk video earlier on.
That was a good video, by the way.
Thank you,
Haney.
man.
Yes, it was. The Haney video. Yes, I saw it, brother. It was an excellent one.
Thank you, fellas. Thank you. So yeah, check that out. Check out the Usyk video we just dropped in the build-up for the Usyk Joshua fight, or Joshua Usyk rather. And that's about it, fellas. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Recognize Jimmy Gonzalo, Chief, King Bucho, and everyone else. Everybody that donated the super chat as well. Everybody that called in. Let me see if I can see the super chat because usually I can't see it. Hold on a second. Trying to get in there.
They're gonna be like, this asshole doesn't even give me a shout out when I try.
Now, for some reason, I can't see the. You could be able to before that. If you went to viewer activity on YouTube, it would tell you who donated. Now I don't. For some reason, I can't see. But anyway, you guys know who you are. Everyone that donated, shout out to you fellas. Everyone that tuned in as well. Shawn O'Connell, the Stray G Turo, Black Lomachenko, Rapax Trucking Company, LT Boxing y Desmadre in the house as well. The Fight Scout, shout out to Fight Scout, Black Lomachenko, Iceman. You guys know who you are. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next one. Friday, it's going to be another open lines show, which means anybody can join with the Discord or call in. And that's about it, fellas. Thank you for joining us. Catch you in the next one.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it, man.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Then let me tell you why.
Gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead.